All right, folks, another exciting edition of Mullings Music and Memories on a Monday afternoon. Just finished doing the radio show with Mark Lee, where we had a number of great guests, including some past guests and all. So we had Kara Oker, nutritionist, on, as did also having Carl Watkins, and they, of course, have been on the past shows. But then we had new folks like a gentleman that is starting a theater guild here in North Carolina, as well as Dr. Raquel Muller, who's over there in Portland, Oregon, and is part of a mom entrepreneur group, and definitely had some great conversation. And also had Chucky Curry, who is a martial arts person out of California. And he's had all kinds of great celebrities and superstars and all of that. He has actually talking about having an encounter with folks ranging from Prince to Halle Berry and ranging from Jackie Chan to Michael Jackson. So he's talking about a number of those things. And we do know a lot of folks were paying attention to the game yesterday, which was that game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. I was actually expecting it was going to be a much closer game than it actually turned out to be. But definitely, I've been rooting for years for the Minnesota Vikings, and my team has not been doing well at all. So we're just going to have to see whether we can get some improvement in that category and maybe make it to a Super Bowl at some point or another. We went like about 4 or so times and never won. One of those teams that never made it to the Super Bowl and has never won. But hopefully at some point we can actually get there and win. And the same with the Carolina Panthers as also, because that's the hometown team or the home state team. So I would love to have them win as well. And of course, a lot of folks are paying attention to things going on around the world, whether that's some of the confirmation hearings that are going on, whether that's the impeachment hearings that are going on as well. As a matter of fact, I think that they start on tomorrow, if I remember correctly, and all of that. And of course, people are paying attention to the virus and the vaccine and a number of other things that are happening in our world. So definitely a lot of folks are paying attention to a number of amazing things and are definitely paying attention to just what's happening in the world and all of that. I love bringing in great guests and definitely look forward to having a great conversation with a number of great guests here on Mullings and Music and Memories. But we're going to start everything off with bringing in my new friend, Jason Freeman. So I got Jason Freeman on and all of that. And I'm sure that folks will be interested in knowing about who Jason is and what Jason's got going on in his life. So definitely, if you would, share with the international broadcast media audience and this great platform we have a little bit about yourself and what you've got going on in your world. And then we'll just have like a regular conversation. And then I'm sure other people may be joining in later on as well. But I know a lot of folks always love hearing the great guests that we have. And I'm glad that you were able to join me. So just share with our audience here a little bit about Mr. Freeman.
Thanks so much for having me, Marc. First of all, we have a similarity. I'm from South Dakota, so I've been a Minnesota Vikings fan my whole life, which hasn't always gone that well.
That's very true. It's been quite heartbreaking quite often, too often if you ask me, because definitely it's not a good thing. And like you said, growing up in South Dakota, the Dakotas, none of the Dakotas have a professional team. So I was imagining that a lot of the folks in the Dakotas would be rooting either for Minnesota, the Packers, or the Vikings. So I'm glad to know that you are a fellow Viking fan. But yeah, we've been suffering big time at all of that. So definitely I want to let folks to learn more about you. But since you brought up South Dakota, what do you think is some of the biggest misconceptions folks have about South Dakota? I remember many years ago when I went to college at Marquette, I actually dated a young lady from South Dakota, and she was actually into the whole rodeo environment and all of that. So I know there's a big rodeo community there because, like I said, we dated, and then I think I was like the in-between boyfriend and all of that. And then she went back to the gentleman that had been the original boyfriend. And as far as I know, they got married. And as far as I know, they're still married. But definitely that was what my South Dakota tie is in the world and all of that. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your reflections on even growing up in South Dakota.
So a lot of people just don't know much about South Dakota for one reasons that are less than 1 million people in the whole state. But but times have been good for South Dakota, like, especially in the Sioux Falls area where I'm from. Economically, it's been, we had no income tax, so a lot of banking, credit card companies came in starting in the 80s and stuff, and it's just been good. Yeah, and in terms of misconceptions, we don't live in teepees. We live in houses, and it's cold. Like now, it's really cold, but we have a nice spring and a nice summer and nice fall. It's a good place to live.
And you've been there all your life, or have you lived in other parts of the globe as well? And if so, what were some of the other places that you've traveled to, and how did you enjoy those places?
For the last 10 years, until I moved back home for the unusualness that 2020 was, I lived in San Diego, California. And San Diego is a phenomenal place to live.
Right, definitely. And I know one of the things that you really do is you really do a lot around being an empowering speaker and all of that. So talk a little bit about that speaking background of yours and some of the ways that you encourage other people. And you don't let different things stop you and everything. Because I know a lot of times we let things, we were actually talking about that on the other show, interfere and stop us. But even though you have a speech impediment, and I can relate to what you're saying, because I've actually got something called dysgraphia, which is a form of dyslexia, meaning that it's part of the reason that I don't drive a car, because left and right and me are not always the best of friends and everything. So like you tell me to go left and it might take me a minute, and then I realize that I'm actually going right when you ask me to go left and all of that. So I have to like do some more creative thinking in terms of remembering which ways to go and all of that. So definitely that is part of what is involved with dysgraphia. Like I said, it's a form of dyslexia, and it's really, as I recall it, and I was found out in my life, much later in life, I think it's more of a motor skill kind of thing and all of that. But definitely share a little bit about your speeches that you give and a little bit about your empowering background.
So in high school class, if we had a vote, I probably would have been voted least likely to become a professional speaker. But and I would have thought of myself back then as least likely to become a professional speaker. So how all of this started is something happened. My mom was pregnant and my parents expected a normal birth.
Right.
But then I came a few weeks early, surprise! and they weren't expecting me. They were sleeping, and but luckily they got us to the emergency room in time, or else we wouldn't be talking right now.
Right.
But in the process, my umbilical cord became kinky like a garden hose. And I lost some oxygen, and as a result, I had this pronounced speech impediment and some coordination differences. And, well, my parents started me off right. They were so pleased to have their only son, and they said, "Jason, you are the best." And as a kid, I was just like, I'm just happy being me. But around the time of fourth grade, I started looking around and going, something here is not like the other things. And that thing was me. And I didn't like that.
Wow. And what do you think is some of the most important messages that you give in your speeches when you give the speeches and everything? And I want to bring, and she's going to pop in just for a minute and everything, a good friend of mine, Miss Kara. And Kara is a person involved in the nutrition space, a health coach and all of that. So definitely a great health coach. But we're actually talking today to Jason Freeman, and Jason Freeman is a amazing speaker, does motivational speeches and all of that. And one of the things that you'll find very interesting, Carrie, and everything is that he does not let his what some people might consider a disability stop him from doing all of this, because as you will notice, he has a speech impediment, but he is still going around and doing speeches and giving these great concentrations of powerful messages. So, Jason, what would you say is one of your most important messages that you'd like to share with the audiences that you go to? And where are these audiences mostly? Are they mostly in churches? Are they mostly in schools? But what are some of the important messages that you like to share?
I mostly speak in schools, businesses, and to audiences related to the community of people who have disabilities. And glad to meet you, Kara.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. I love that you are a speaker. And so one of my things, and I talked about this in Jatovi's Gamer's Den episode this past week, or last week, but we all have gifts, and we all have different ways at approaching them. And unfortunately, a lot of times there's this standardized norm of how they should be packaged or given or come to fruition. And I love it when people just challenge the notion, no, I'm going to present it this way. I'm going to do this, just because you may think that I appear this way, this is me, and this is how I'm using my gifts, and I'm very confident and talented, and I love it. You just, just the brief second that I've been here, you're owning it, and I love that you're making it happen. So go you.
Yeah, definitely go you, Jason. What is some of the at what point did you decide that you wanted to do these speeches and everything? I know you talked about coming into the earth and everything at an early age, being a preemie and all of that. But definitely, at what point in your life did you decide, hey, I'm Jason Freeman, and I'm going to start giving motivational speeches and all of that to folks that are also in that disability space? So at what point in your life did you decide that this was something you were going to do on a regular basis?
So about 12 years ago, I decided to quit wallowing in what I thought of as my imperfection and start doing my imperfect best. And imperfect best means that we take whatever life gives us and do our best to turn it into an opportunity, to turn it into an advantage for ourselves and for other people.
Do you have that on a t-shirt, doing my imperfect best?
Hey, that's so amazing you bring that up, Kara, because we don't yet, but we're thinking about t-shirts and stuff. Just literally this week, we're going to talk about it. So thank you.
And that would be a great t-shirt. I agree with y'all.
Unexpected segue.
Yeah, that would be a great t-shirt. I like that. I like that t-shirt idea. And I could even think of that t-shirt. And as you were talking, Jason, I was thinking about how, and it even comes back to something that Kara was saying earlier. A lot of times, even our great leaders of the country oftentimes had various disabilities and things of that nature, but we don't think about them for their disabilities. I believe it was one of the Roosevelts that was definitely in a wheelchair and all of that, but we don't think about that. We think about some of his great decisions and oftentimes don't even reflect on the fact that he was in a wheelchair. And of course, I want to say that Stephen Hawkins has some different kinds of disabilities as well in his life, if I remember correctly. And definitely there are a number of other folks that are in that same kind of category of having some sort of what people may call a disability or something along those lines. I actually don't like that term and everything. So what is the term that you prefer and everything? Because I've actually had some guests on another show that were I think they were in the other kind of spaces and they didn't like it. And then we have a show with win. And sometimes they like other terms other than handicapped or disabilities or all of that. So when you think about folks that may have whatever, and I'm not even sure what the norm is because I think that the norm is sometimes overrated. I've joked with Kara sometimes that if I ever ran into a sane person, I might decide to commit them because I don't think that there is much sanity in the world. So I think that definitely if I ran into a sane person or somebody that claimed to be sane, I'd be sitting there going like, yeah, you need to go to the closest crazy house because you're already crazy. So that would just be my thoughts. But when folks give you
You
terms,
hit it on the head there. I think we can use anything in our lives, any gift to either disable us or to able us and empower us. I mean, no matter what it is. Say we were the top 3 musicians in the world, but we were all scared to death of performing in public. What good would that gift be to any of us or to the world?
right.
Yeah.
In that case, we would be super talented, but we would be disabling our talent. But whereas, I mean, we are taking a unique abilities and finding a ability with them. Like Mark, you mentioned that left-right thing.
Yes.
What do you call that? What's the name of that?
Dysgraphia.
Dysgraphia. But you learn how to use that part of your life in a way that provides ability.
Right. Yep, I agree. And actually, one of our listeners was actually making a comment and everything. They were actually saying that they have heard the term gifted, but they don't know how a person feels about that word either. So, and like I said, I was trying to figure out words that people may use, whether it's disability, whether it's handicap, or whether it's, as this person was saying, gifted and all of that. But which are the terms that you prefer when folks are thinking about you and talking about you and the great gifts that you have in your life? So what is the words that you prefer folks use other than just saying Mr. Jason, the great speaker?
Exceptional.
What?
Exceptional.
Thanks. I think I mean I prefer people talk about my speech impediment. Say I'm someone who experiences a disability. I mean, it depends on what way people are using it. If they're using it to put me down, any term's uncomfortable. But I mean, I believe we need to have ways to talk about differences. Like I have a different voice, and it's okay to say that I have a different voice as long as people say it respectfully.
Yeah,
But probably not like handicapped.
right.
I mean, that's just not a term that's used much anymore.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What do you think is one of the most powerful messages that you give to folks when you're speaking to them? So what are some of the messages of encouragement that you like to share with your audience? And what are some of the stories even? Because like I said, I know a lot of times motivational speakers will share their own personal stories that motivate their audience. So I'd love to hear some of your motivational stories as well as some of the ways that you inspire your audience.
So can I tell you the story of like 12 years ago how I started going down this path?
Yes, please.
So life was going pretty well. I had a good job. I lived in South Dakota, and I had just gotten a master's degree. It should have been the happiest day of my life, but I was kind of stomping around my apartment and just so discontent. Do you ever have those mornings where you're kind of pacing around and just miserable?
Yes.
And luckily, I remember that a few months before, my aunt and uncle said, "Hey, Jason," out of the blue. They said, "Hey, Jason, we think you should try yoga." And you know when someone gives you an idea, you know it's pretty good, but you have no intention of doing anything with it.
Right.
I was like polite. I'm like, yeah, yoga, that sounds great. But then I promptly forgot about it. But then these few months later, when I'm going around my apartment, I'm like, oh, what can I hurt? I'm miserable anyway. So all I did is went down to the YMCA and bought a $35 monthly membership. I didn't even take yoga that first day. But that small step changed the trajectory of my life.
Oh.
So I like to tell people that to think of the big picture and think of dreams and life goals and 5-year, 10-year vision, but also remember to just take the small step in the direction you want to go, because any of us can dream our lives away, but unless we take steps, not much happens.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because we were actually just talking about that on the other show earlier and everything. Because a lot of times, and we talked about this on a number of shows here on the international broadcast media, a lot of times I find that folks self-sabotage themselves on a regular basis. So rather than going out and doing like you're doing, they will go and self-sabotage themselves and probably do it in a number of things. I know I've self-sabotaged myself in going for jobs, in going for relationships, in going for just a meal around the corner. I've self-sabotaged myself on a number of things. So definitely, can you speak to that, about that concept of self-sabotage and ways that you fight against it? Because I do think that a lot of times we find ways to self-sabotage ourselves. And I did see you do it, the school raising of the hand, like, yes, I've done it as well.
Let's face it, being human is challenging. It's challenging, and for much of my life, I approached those challenges with, oh my gosh, I don't want that challenge. It shouldn't be, and promptly try to go the other way. But then I realized that I didn't give myself enough to do in the day. So when my mind was bored, what would I do other than self-sabotage myself, which was very ugly. Yeah. It just didn't go well. And so first, I think we have an opportunity to notice to know that self-sabotage is human. Next, to realize as much as we can when we're doing it, and then choose another path. Because I like to say, if I'm in San Diego and my goal is to get to Boston, I don't want to head towards Alaska, because that's not going to get me there.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I've got a nice story that both of you will enjoy about self-sabotage. And it was actually probably 40 years ago and everything. Actually, more than that, probably 43, 44 years ago and everything. But I went to a summer camp and I ran track. And I was the world's worst track runner. And I know that, and everybody else knew that as well.
What event?
I ran the 100 and the I think it was the 100 and the 200. If I remember. No, I'm sorry. It was the mile, and the half mile. That's right. It was a distance run. So it was a mile and the half mile. But I ran the mile and the half a mile. But when I ran it, I went to a journalism camp. Well, two things. One, when I ran in high school, I always lost, but I was a good recruiter. I was a good networker even back then and everything. So the coach liked me being on the team because he knew I was going to recruit a team that would win. And we won 3 out of my 4 years. We lost my senior year because I decided to recruit somebody that I could beat. That was wrong of me. You know that, Kara. That was wrong of me. But I decided I was going to recruit somebody that I could beat, and I think we lost by like 3 points. But the self-sabotage story actually comes to a time of a summer camp, which I think was in between my junior and my senior year. And I was taunting. I was basically bragging about how good a runner I was, knowing good and well I was not a good runner, but I was just bragging and everything. And somebody called me on that. They were like, all right, meet us. We're doing it at UNC, the University of North Carolina, at a summer camp. And I was like, they were like, meet us and we'll do a race here in our track. And I was like, all right, I'll come down there and I'll run with y'all and we'll have this race. So we were going to have the race. And I talked myself into not going. So like I said, there was a summer camp, probably about 10 or 15 of us in the summer camp. And I talked myself into not going. And eventually I talked myself into going where I was supposed to have this race against this gentleman from another program. I was in a journalism program. He was in Upward Bound, I think. But I talked myself into going. And as I was going down to the track, some 2 hours late, I saw some of the people coming back from my group and everything. And I saw them coming back. And when I saw them coming back, then I was like, wait a minute. Why are they coming back? And they were like, we were down there waiting for the race. I was like, y'all waiting for the race between me and whatever the guy's name was. We'll call him James. And they were like, yeah. And guess what? He didn't show up either.
Love it. Love it. You do know, though, Mark, that there are other events and track that do not involve running necessarily.
That is true.
Like you could have done shot put or javelin? I don't know, just like the pointy stick. Like, yeah, you could have done that. You would have rocked it.
Oh, I'm sure I would have rocked. I would have definitely rocked on all of that and everything. So maybe that's what I should have done. I probably should have done the shot put and tried the shot put instead. That probably would have worked a lot better.
It's cool though that the other guy also just didn't show. So you for at least trying to do it 2 hours late, thinking you could
Yep, I tried to go there 2 hours late and he was nowhere to be found. So like I said, I don't know who won that race. I guess nobody won because none of us went and raced. But I just thought it was funny that he didn't show up also and all of that. Jason, who are some of the folks that inspire you? I'm sure that definitely you talk about your mother and your parents, but I'm sure there were other people that inspired you. It might even have been some of our great leaders, some of our folks in history. It might have been a school teacher, but who are some of the people in your life that have inspired you?
What a great question. Then I would like to hear yours after I say, but hear both of yours.
Okay.
So my parents, my speech therapist, when I was really young, Sheila Stewart, her attitude was like, speech therapy is tough, Jason, but I see potential in you. Keep coming, and it was so nice. And recent years, my yoga teachers, and then now I have a pretty huge community of speakers around me, and they inspire me, and they each inspire me in different ways. How about you two? Who inspires you?
Well, there are a couple of them. My parents definitely inspire me. I mean, these are folks that decided to start a radio station when I was a preteen, and they had no background in this field. Mom was a guidance counselor, and Dad was an engineer and somewhat of an activist, and had also served in the military. But neither of them had a radio background. But they definitely were very much involved in the wanting to create positive images in our community, the African American community, but also wanted to create positive images in terms of like being supporters of jazz and blues and a number of other kind of music. So they were inspirations. My grandma Molly, who decided to start a library in the middle of Raleigh by walking around that entire city and collecting money. I think that might have been in like the 40s or the 50s. She definitely is an inspiration. And of course, I'm inspired by great leaders of the past, folks like JFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and a number of others like that. So those are some of the folks that inspire me. Kara, what about you?
So I am going to say who inspires me, and then I'm going to pop off and let you two just enjoy the show.
Well, we're gonna before you pop off, and I appreciate you popping on and everything. We're gonna enjoy the show, but we're also gonna be joined by one other guest and everything, and that is Miss Brianne Davis and all. And she has written an amazing book, and she's also a podcaster. She's got the Secret Life podcast and all of that and everything. And she's actually written a book about being a love addict. So she's actually been addicted to love and addicted to a number of other things. So we're going to talk about some of that as well. So we've been talking to having a great conversation, Brianne, with Jason. Jason is a motivational speaker, but he's not letting the fact that he is got a speech impediment stop him from giving these great motivational speeches. So he's got a speech impediment, but still speaks to folks on a regular basis and is inspiring the world and all of that. And I know that you have also been inspiring the world also, even though you've been working in that whole acting community over there in Hollywood and found out about this addiction later in life. And I met you through Brother Mike when he had you on his show, not this Friday, but the Friday before.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice to meet you, Jason. That's so cool. I love that. I love anybody willing to put themselves out there in an authentic way, no matter that we all are different and all have flaws and things we, struggle with, but we keep forging ahead. So that's awesome. I love that. Nice to meet you both. Thanks. I've been in recovery 11 years from sex and love addiction while working in Hollywood. And I wrote a book that comes out this week, Secret Life of Hollywood Sex and Love Addict. And it just goes into like entertaining, but also educating about the addiction, and more people are suffering from it. And there's so much shame and secrets that I'm trying to blow open the doors for being a love addict or a sex addict or any ism or secret, and willing to just talk about it and bring that shame and secrets out in the open to, that we're not alone. We all want the same thing. We all want love, a fear of abandonment, intimacy, and all that. So yeah, nice to be here with you guys.
Yeah, appreciate you. And I know that Kara said she's actually got to get ready to bounce, and we may have a gospel singer coming and join us as well shortly. But before she bounces and all, I definitely wanted to hear her thoughts on that, because definitely I know that we've oftentimes talked about the fact that a lot of times folks do suffer from those kind of like things that you're talking about not wanting to come to terms with whatever is going on in their life, whether that's coming to terms with the love addiction, whether that's coming to terms with the speech impediment, or a number of other things that we don't like to come to terms with. And she even does some of that in her health coaching, because Kara is all about health coaching and is about trying to make sure that we are comfortable with our health and all of that, and comfortable with the kind of decisions that we make about nutrition. We were actually talking about that earlier. So before you bounce, Kara, if you could share with Brianne and Jason a little bit about your own background so that they can learn a little bit about you and everything and what you do with the health coaching.
Yeah, so you did, circling back, you did ask who inspires me, and my mom and my dad. My mom was just a super strong woman, and she had goals and she achieved that, and she wanted to be more than just a woman or a teacher. She wanted to just be an advocate for people, and she was an advocate for her students, and she was someone who, without her, they wouldn't even have been able to leave really the tri-state area of Indiana and Kentucky, Ohio. Because of her, they were able to travel to DC and see, everything that goes on there. Like, just know that, hey, we're traveling to our nation's capital and stuff. And my dad was just super inspirational, because he taught me that it's imperative to be yourself. And without being yourself, you're really nothing. And so if you cheat yourself, the opportunity to be yourself, then you are just putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. So he was all about like that whole proverbial, like putting little pieces of yourself, like on it, imagine like a vision board or like even your bathroom mirror, and like putting little pictures of like everything that you are on that mirror. Like he was all about it. And that's a lot of what I do in my health coaching. And, you know, this is who you are. And we go through this huge shame spiral of, but I need to do this to be healthy. I need to do this because this is what nutrition is. Like, no, it's different for everyone. There are principles. Yes. You know, you do not become healthy by eating 2 packets of Oreos and, you know, drinking a bottle of bourbon a day. I mean, you know, whatever. Like you don't achieve health in a backwards way. But if you identify the parts of yourself that you're kind of afraid to wrestle with, and, you know, just giving yourself love in that area, and like really paying attention, like, how does that make me feel? And then giving yourself the chance to say, how do I want to feel? You know, and giving yourself that power, and really framing it in a way that you're able to fulfill your own purpose. A lot of times we deny ourselves the chance to fulfill purpose. Like, oh, I just have to toe the line. No, you don't have to. What inspires you? What serves you? What makes you happy? What makes you feel like you've put in a good day every day? You know, even when you feel your worst, are you allowing yourself to feel those feelings, or are you punishing yourself for having normal human feelings by, you know, doing some other stuff that really just hinder you? And we all have our demons. And I love, Brianne, that you like have that out, that you put that out there. Yes, we all have demons, right? Mm-hmm. And we also have things that aren't demons. They're just different. We're different, and we all have things. And if we were to celebrate it, the mass as a whole, there, you know, people are going to be like, or whatever, but who cares, right? So like, Jason, you are your authentic self. Brianne, you're your authentic self. And Marc Lee, you are definitely one of a kind. And I love that about you. So, you know, it's just like celebrating that, right? And not even apologizing, just totally being yourself and owning it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Jason, I've had a question. I think you had a question about. I'm going to ask Brianne really quickly. I know you got to get ready to go, but the shame element that Kara was talking about, how much did that play into the book that you wrote and everything? Because I sometimes think that is what pushes folks into love addictions and sex addictions and things of that. It's some of those shame elements. So how much of that played into even getting caught up in that addiction?
Well, I think it's like a cycle. You act out, then you have shame and self-loathing, and then it causes you to act out and again. And it's like, and as an addict, you just keep, you know, the circumstances and situations keep getting amplified so you can feel that high, but then it causes more shame. But writing the book for me, I wrote it after a decade of recovery. So luckily, like I said, I outed myself. I didn't ever want to write a book. I didn't want to come out as a sex and love addict. I was of service in my community and, you know, 12-step group. And yeah, it was this bigger thing to give back to the world. I saw so many younger people suffering from social media and DMing and Instagram and swipe left, swipe right, all that stuff. So I just started writing the book out of pressure from my husband, and it just poured out of me in 45 days, the first draft. And it's just bigger than me. It's something bigger than me to be of service and to give a voice to this addiction, especially for women, that there isn't any shame. And that, you know, if you keep going back to the unavailable person, there's a way out. If you keep, you know, flirting and intriguing outside of your relationship, there's a way out. If you keep having one night stands, there's a way out. All that stuff, there's a way out. And to the whole purpose of it and this program is finding self-love, and that you would love yourself just as you are and not be addicted to outside circumstances. Really, that's all it's about.
Yeah, that makes sense. What were you going to say, Jason?
Is the end of your email address CAD.com?
My email address. Okay, so the @Deepened Roots Health Coaching, that's my Instagram handle.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah. And then I actually sent you a connection request on LinkedIn, Jason.
Oh, sweet. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes. It's so good to meet both of you. And Marc, thank you so much for inviting me onto this show. And you have a wonderful rest of your show, y'all.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Appreciate you. One of the questions I was going to ask you, Brianne, and everything, and I've oftentimes thought about this, and I was just wondering your thoughts about this is, and then I want to come back to some of the things we were talking about with Jason as well, is too often I find that the people put things that they think of them as different, and I don't know that they're necessarily all that different. And I know that even when I had you on the international broadcast media, or Mike had you, I should say, and everything, and you're talking about the love and sex addiction, that sometimes people also have what amounts to, and I'll even admit that I'm sometimes guilty of it, being a commitment phobe and things of that nature. And it seems to me that sometimes they're actually the same category and the same boat. So I was just wondering your thoughts about that, because like I said, I think a lot of times folks think about sex and love addiction as being that whole being addicted to the person, being addicted to that concept of being in love, and of course the sex elements that may come with that and everything. Yeah. But I think that the opposite can be just as detrimental of being a commitment phobe and not wanting to get into a permanent relationship for whatever reasons and all of that. So I was wondering if you could talk about the relationship between those two and if they are the same thing.
Well, they're the same thing. It's fear of intimacy, really. When someone is, wanting to make an unavailable person available, they're actually unavailable. They're just trying to have this control and power and I'm worth loving. I'm going to get this person to love me. And it's the same on the other side. If you're scared of being with somebody, it's fear of intimacy, fear of, abandonment. It's just swinging the pendulum to extremes. They call in Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous is being sexually anorexic, where you don't want to be in a relationship. It's too much for you. It's too much intimacy. It's not like there's a fear. And I have to tell you, I was never one to go out and have one night stands or a lot of partners. That's not my addiction at all. But even though I was in a relationship, a part of my foot was always out, because I was afraid they would leave me. So I would be ready to leave first. So it's the same thing. And I think anybody not willing to commit or doesn't want to, there's an intimacy issue there, because we're humans. We are bred to be committed. We're bred to be a part of a group. And when you are so anti being with somebody, I don't ever want to be married, which I never wanted to be married. And now I'm married. That's crazy to me. It's something to look at. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of they're going to leave you? Are afraid of you're not enough? Are you afraid of of you getting bored and all that stuff? So yeah, I think that's a kind of an issue if you have a monogamy issue.
And one of the other things I was here to ask about and everything, and it even comes back to something that we were talking about with Jason earlier, is I sometimes think that people sometimes also put their whatever their disadvantages are also as a roadblock to relationships as well. And I'm not speaking for Jason because I don't know Jason. Jason's waving his hands yes, I've done that sometimes. So I was just wondering, do you find that also happens sometimes, that folks will put that as a roadblock, afraid to actually get involved in the relationship because they're afraid that the person, like in Jason's case, might be upset that they've got a speech impediment, or in the case of somebody that's got a wheelchair, that they're upset that the person might not accept them because they're in the wheelchair, or in the case of somebody being blind, that they won't be accepted because of their blindness. And I'm just using those as three examples.
I mean, for me, I'm dyslexic and I have ADHD, and that was always a shameful thing for me. I felt inadequate, not good enough, and I would hide it or make it less prevalent. And now being, out in the open, I talk about it, I share it. I think when we try to hide our true self is where those secrets and lies and shame can affect our relationship. And you'll be like, well, I can't be in a relationship because I got to work on myself, or I can't be in a relationship because, what if this person sees me, without makeup on, or I can't be in a relationship because I don't talk the same, or it's just another excuse why not to be completely connected to another soul. And my whole goal is, when I was at my bottom, I was like, am I going to be doing this the rest of my life? Am I going to be on my deathbed and say, I never let anybody see the real me? I was never connected to another person. And that to me was more tragic than going through the pain and looking why I never thought I could be in a committed relationship, why I never thought I was worthy of real love. All that stuff, plus what society puts on us, the porn industry, what sex should look like, movie industry, what a relationship could look like, and I talked to you about it. It's like seeing movies way too young. And my movie I saw way too young was Romeo and Juliet. And it was like, you had to love someone so much that one or two people had to die at the end. Like, you had to either take poison, or I was willing to stab myself, and that meant real love, and that's not realistic. Like,
what
nobody.
A not good movie. Just
No, I saw it so young, at like 6 years old, and it was like, well, my parents were like hippies, and we watched Shakespeare, and we read like stuff too early, and I just remember thinking like. Wow, someone has to be willing to die for me? Okay, I guess that's what real love is. And it's like, nobody should be willing to die for anybody. Like, that's insane that we believe that. That's insane to me.
But it's totally insane. But then you even brought up the other thing. And I mean, like I said, you're definitely in Hollywood, which is a master of this industry and everything, whether it's the modeling side or whether it's the acting side or a number of other things. But I also sometimes think that we put too high a pedestal and all of that on folks and everything. And like I said, you definitely, you're a very attractive young lady and everything. Not hitting on you so your husband doesn't have to beat me up or anything, but definitely a very attractive young lady and everything. But I do think that sometimes the Hollywood industry puts these standards on, and not everybody can live up to those standards and everything. And then it becomes like unrealistic standards. I mean, how many people can actually look like a Halle Berry or a Sigourney Weaver or a number of these other folks?
But here's what I have to actually stop you, because I have a very funny story. This one guy said one time, if you could be with the hottest, or you could see the hottest person ever, and I give you $1 million, somebody is sick of fucking them. So it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. That doesn't sustain a real connection. Like, I could get in an accident and, my face would be gone. Like, it could be scarred. It doesn't matter. That's not what sustains a relationship. And Hollywood definitely shows a false sense of what a relationship looks like, because there's barely any fantasies or movies about paying the bills, picking up the dog poop, having conversations, uncomfortable conversations about money managing. None of those are prevalent, and we have unrealistic expectations. And now with Instagram, you can put filters over your life, and it's like, we have to literally stop and say, let's be honest. Let's take off all the filters. Let's take off all the crap. Let's take off all these unrealistic expectations of each other. We're all humans. We're all flawed. Do you want to be alone the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Yeah. No, I don't know anybody who wants to be alone the rest of your life. And actually, the way you put it so bluntly and everything, but it's so true, because I think about one of the folks that actually was going through something. We found out later, similar to what you've gone through and everything. But, when people think about some of the most gorgeous women in the world, one of the names that comes to mind automatically is Halle Berry. And Halle Berry was married to Eric Benet, who apparently was a sex addict as well.
Yeah, who was cheating on her. But she's probably one too, to be honest. They usually choose each other one way or another. But if you look at Elizabeth Taylor, she was married 7 times. Right. And some of the most beautiful women I know are the lowest self-esteem. So we have to take away what looks on the outside doesn't complete who you are on the inside.
Brianna, I have to go at the top of the hour, but I'm so curious. When you were at your bottom, how did you know where to go for help?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. So at my bottom, I was on location shooting a movie. My mentor just died. And I remember I was living with my boyfriend, who I loved and adored. And I loved as much as I could love and would want to be his friend. And I found myself about to blow up the relationship with someone I didn't even like or know. And I was like, what is going on? Why am I flirting and intriguing with this person? And I was sitting in my hotel room going, am I going to be doing this the rest of my life? Like, it has to be me. Something has to be wrong with me. It can't be every other guy I date. So I reached out to a friend and she hooked me up with her therapist. And the first session I went in, she told me that you are a sex and love addict. And I was like, huh? Like, what? Because I was like, I don't have one night stands. I don't have a lot of sexual partners. That's what a sex addict is. And it was like, she was like, no, you can be a sex and a love addict and only have one partner, be addicted to one person, be addicted to the idea of falling in love. And she went through these 40 questions. So if anybody's out there watching or listening, there's 40 questions, self-diagnose on SLAW. It's called Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. Type in 40 self-diagnose SLAA. These 40 questions come up and it's like, do you use others to fix you? Are you looking for the ideal partner? Do you keep going back to destructive relationships? It's questions like that. And I filled it out and I got 38 out of 40. Wow. Because you're supposed to if you get 5 or more yeses, it's yes or no, then you obviously have a problem. And I remember driving home to my boyfriend. We lived together and calling him and going, I'm a sex and love addict, hysterically crying on the 101 highway. And I got home and he highlighted all of the meetings I could go to. And I went that night and it was 40 people, all races, all ethnicities, all genders, all, it's like a movie star and a janitor, every walk of life. And I sat around the room listening and I started crying. And it was because the first time in my life, I didn't feel broken or alone. I just didn't have the tools. I wasn't taught the tools how to have a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship. So that was my journey. And it's been 11 years and a couple months. And it's the best thing I've ever done for myself. And I just have to tell you, because you don't know the story, but Mark does. But I've been with my husband, who's been 16 years. It's not like I went out and got help in the program, then found the perfect partner, because it's not about your partner. It's about you. You're just using other people. It's like a rotation. You could put a bag over their head. So yeah, I'm so proud of everything I've done, and now I'm giving it back to the world. So thank you for asking me that.
Yeah, appreciate you doing that, Jason. And like I said, I know you got to go at the top of the hour and everything. How do you think that you're doing in your own life in that whole relationship category? And then the other thing that I always ask all my guests before they bounce is any words of encouragement that they would like to give to our global audience. So Brianne knows that I've done this before and everything. So any words of encouragement, but also how do you feel that you're doing in your own relationship hunt?
Marc, wow.
Wow.
So I would say I'm definitely a work in progress in my relationship area of my life.
That's it. That's all he's saying.
Yes, he's going to plead the fifth. I don't blame him. And we're all works in progress. I definitely agree with that and everything. What kind of words of encouragement would you give to folks that want to be motivational speakers? Brianne is actually has done some motivational speaking, and now you're doing that as well. So I know that she's done it, but I'd love to hear your words of advice that you might want to give to folks that are in that motivational speaking space, because you definitely do it and you've done it well. You've been giving us some great stories doing this last hour and everything. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about words of advice in terms of motivational speaking.
So the first thing is to get excited about both the ups and downs of your life story, and know that the downs of your life story can help someone else. So when you're a motivational speaker, you don't need to go on stage and say, my life has been perfect. This is how you get the perfect life. No, that's not what people need. People need to see people on stage who are human, who stand up there and say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. Brianne, you exude that. If your message is, if I can do it, and I'm been on this path for 11 years, you can do it too. And
Yeah.
And then once you get a certain level of comfort with telling both the ups and downs of your story, the next thing you need is to find a group of people, a group of friends, a Rotary Club, something and talk. And it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be your first time. But you need to get over that first time. And then no matter how it goes, you need to just keep doing it again and again. And know it's an imperfect best journey, but it's so worth it for yourself and for the audience.
No, definitely. Speaking of the audience, I did have an audience member that was making comments. They were actually making comments to Brianne and to you, but I pulled yours up first and everything. But they said that they really enjoyed listening to you, Mr. Jason W. Freeman. Life can be a challenge, and having your inner self make you feel you're less than should not be tolerated. So they were saying great discussion, and they were definitely being encouraged by the great words that you were giving them and all of that. So definitely want to thank Pfeiffer for making those comments and everything, but they were definitely being inspired by a lot of the words that you were sharing with them.
Thanks so much for having me on, Marc, and great to meet you, Brianne. And
You too.
And one last thing, if people want to find me, that my website is jasonwfreeman.com.
JasonWFreeman.com. And Brianne, let him know how he can reach you as well. I'm sure that we'll be continuing our conversation, but he might want to be finding ways to reach you as well. So definitely if you want to share that.
Yeah, you can reach me at the Brianne Davis on Instagram or at Secret Life Novel on Instagram. And then we also have a podcast. It's at Secret Life Podcast. We interview all different people of all walks of life with addiction, suicide, everything. And then go to secretlifenovel.com and get the book, and my website's on it and all that stuff.
So if I just went to secretlifenovel.com, could I find everything else?
Everything's on there. That's why I just say secretlifenovel.com. Everything is on there. My website, the podcast, everything.
Secret Life. No, what a great title for a book. God.
Thank you.
Really great.
That is a great title. And speaking of Secret Life, tell us a little bit about the podcast and some of the powerful stories that y'all have had on the podcast. And I'm sure that as he's walking out the door and everything, Jason would like to even hear some of the stories that might involve folks that are in that gifted space and all of that. So definitely I'd love to hear some of the Secret Life podcast and some of the things that you have learned through that podcast.
Well, it's definitely revealing your secrets. Everybody comes on revealing some kind of secret. We have famous people come on. Olivia Munn was just on last week. I have Jana Kramer coming on. And then I have anonymous people. Most of my podcasts that come on are anonymous. So we have everything from suicide attempt, shooting herself in the chest with a shotgun and surviving, walking me through what that was like, because she wanted to be so perfect and she couldn't achieve the perfectionism. Yeah. Are you going, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay.
I need
nice
to go. I wish I could listen.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks so much.
No problem. But share a little bit more about that, because that just sounds like a very motivational story that she was sharing, just to do that and everything and to survive it.
Yeah, she survived it. Now she's an advocate for suicide, and she's really putting it in there in her state of New York that I love. Her name's Kristen. She came out with her story. Then I have another story of an anonymous where she used abortions as a form of birth control. We have male eating disorders. I just had a guy come on. I've had, stealing at Whole Foods from Marc Bezos, because she hates Marc Bezos. So she steals from Whole Foods, like funny secrets also. But there's a lot of shame stealing. So for her to come on and be like, this is what I do and it's not okay, but I can't stop myself from doing it. Addiction to drugs, addiction to alcohol. We also had, going to a sane asylum, wanting to commit suicide and that whole experience, emotional incest with their mother. This guy came on and talked about coming out of the closet. I just had a trans guest come on, share her journey. Honestly, it's every story you can imagine. I've had 33 episodes, and mine, I just did one this week about the book, talking about being dyslexic and going through the journey of writing the book and then publishing it and all that stuff. That's out now. And I have 90 more episodes recorded. So we have enough for 2.5 years. My husband and I produce it together.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the best things I've ever done. Honestly, it's not about me and it's not about the listener, but I do say, tell me your secrets. I'll tell you mine. And I'm revealing on every episode, but it's about the listener, the people that don't have a voice, that they don't feel so alone. And when I get DMs or emails saying, oh my God, that episode talking about anorexia just helped me understand my daughter's anorexia, or oh my God, I have that love addiction problem. I keep going back to that unavailable man. All those things, it's just been such a beautiful gift to give back, because it's not about me. Honestly, it's really about the listeners for me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. What's one of the most unusual addictions that you have found in your research with Secret Podcast and all of that? And by the way, Miss Pfeiffer was also saying that she was thanking you for sharing your insights. We are all addicts in some way, good addicts and bad addicts, whether it be eating, shopping, gossiping, or just having a desire to help people. She's brave. So they was even saying that sometimes, and I can be guilty of that as well, that sometimes that desire to help people can also be considered an addiction as well. Because sometimes you just want to be that helping person, and that person is actually giving a lot of ourselves. And that can even turn into an addiction as well, because sometimes we can give too much of ourselves.
Well, that's codependence, where you are wanting an approval addiction, where you're wanting to help other people because that gives you worth and value. And I say in the book, and I share it, like, I believe everybody has an ism. People are addicted to their phones now, shopping. I have a bunch of shopping ones recorded. I have eating ones, tons of overeaters, anorexia, anything we can come addicted to, anything you do to not feel your feelings, to numb out. We as humans tend to like to not feel our feelings. The only emotion I am interested in as an addict is euphoria. I don't want to feel anything else. So it's getting to be okay with the feelings, the uncomfortability, sitting through the pain, going through, knowing you're going to get on the other side, and that feelings don't kill us. The act that you're doing is going to kill you. And I just want to say, for anybody that's listening, if you are in a bad relationship, if you are finding yourself not being able to get in a relationship, not being able to commit, I have to tell you that sex and love addiction is one of the most deadly diseases out of any other addiction. More people kill themselves over sex and love addiction. More people murder people over sex and love addiction. More people are in jail because of sex and love addiction. And I shared this with you, Mark, and I would love to share with your audience. I spoke at, Los Angeles jails, Los Angeles County Women's Correction Facility. I spoke for 2.5 years every Saturday at the female jail. And when I was holding the meetings, every single woman in there was for sex and love addiction. She, sold drugs for her partner. She killed somebody. She attempted robbery. I mean, all of them were in there because of some kind of relationship.
And it seems like we almost, and we were alluding to that earlier, we almost give it like that glamorous kind of way of putting it out there and everything. Because if we think about it, some of the greatest movies were actually about sex and love addictions and everything. I know that a lot of times people are very much inspired by some of the great bank robbers and things of that nature.
Oh,
but
yeah.
if you think about like
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde, that sounds like a sex and love addiction big time. I was actually just thinking of Bonnie and Clyde because that sounds like straight up sex addiction. And also some people might
she's going to rob a bank for him. Come on. No, I mean, any movie, if you think about it, it is usually a sex and love addict. They're obsessed with each other. They can't live without each other. They're going to go do this thing. It's one of the movies, and people crack up. I wrote about it in the book because Roxanne, my main character, is obsessed with The Notebook. And it's widely known in my program, 12-step program, that you cannot watch The Notebook. Like, you are never going to make love in the rain. And, there is no Noah for your Allie. Like, that's the characters. And she goes into this big fantasy, and how even when characters I play, when I'm playing them, I'm like, she's a sex and love addict. Like, this would not be normal. So I think Hollywood amplifies, glamorizes addiction in general. You know, if you listen to love songs, it's like, come on, Justin Timberlake, you don't have to like be obsessed with this girl all the time. Like, do you see what I'm saying? But I do want to say really quick, and I want to make this very clear. If you have a sex and love addiction or whatever, I'm not saying, you know, SLAW or Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous will fix yourself. It's just what worked for me, a 12-step program and therapy. But like a good friend of mine is in what came to the program with me, and she didn't do the 12-step program. She went and just did therapy and got through her stuff. So it's just a tool to get better. So if you're interested, please go on the website and look. It saved my life. It could save yours. That's all I have to say. This is my opinion. I am not a spokesperson.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you putting that out there in that way and everything. But you said something earlier that actually had me thinking, which is that, and it even comes back to something I was talking about on my other show earlier today and everything, which is if we all, and that was about sanity, but if we all have addictions in one form or fashion or another, can we rarely ever truly not have an addiction? Because it seems to me that we all have an addiction of one sort or another, just like you said earlier. And I don't know whether we can always get rid of the addictions, like I said. And some of them may not be as harmful as others. Like definitely, you know, if you're an alcoholic, that can be very harmful. Definitely drugs, if depending on what you're doing with the sex and love addictions, that can definitely be harmful. But I mean, I'm actually looking at my space and going like, yeah, I probably got an addiction to not being the cleanliest person in the world and all of that. So there's like some steps that need to be done in that category in terms of like not being the neatest in the world and all of that. And some people would say if that's an addiction to cleaning the space or whatever. So
I think the first thing is you gotta recognize there's a problem. Yeah. And when you realize there's a problem, or I use things outside of myself, I use Netflix I'm just not me, but people have come on my show saying they're addicted to Netflix. Like they turn it on at night because they don't want to like communicate, or they don't want to feel, and they just want to numb out. So the first thing is recognizing there's a problem. And when it's amplifying and you find yourself doing it every day, is to go, okay, why am I keep getting on my phone? Is it because I don't want to deal with my kids and live in reality? Like, and then stopping yourself and saying, you know what, I'm not going to do this today. And if you have trouble putting it down and not picking it back, you know, if you have trouble, that's pretty much telling you're addicted or have a problem. If you can't stop doing something. But I think the first thing is like, do I pick up my phone when I don't want to have feelings? Do I go on Instagram? Do I watch Netflix when I don't want to feel? Do I pick up that piece of cake when I'm having a bad day? Do I look for attention when I'm not getting attention from my husband because I'm feeling depleted and lonely and bored or whatever? It could be anything. Like, do I pick up a glass of wine because I'm stressed out? It's saying, wait a minute, I'm not going to try to do that today. And if you can't stop yourself, then usually there's some ism popping up. Is the best advice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I've just got all kinds of questions, you know, like I did when you were on Brother Mike's show and everything, but because this is just raising a lot of interesting questions. Because some people would even argue that there are some good things in society that could also be in some ways probably considered addictions, but I don't know if those folks, I'm giving a name one. I don't know if those folks would consider themselves addicts because like I said, I consider myself more of a spiritual person than a religious person, but I got friends that are definitely religious. They go to church all the time. They attend church regularly. Some of them even get caught up in the whole praise movement and all of that kind of things of that nature. They would say that that is not an addiction and everything. The fact that they've got to go to church 5 or 6 days a week or whatever. I personally think that it may be an addiction, but I'm wondering.
Again, I think you're not living your life if you're in church that much. Just from my point of view, listen, people go to church and but we say if you're like, people can get addicted to 12-step meetings. They can be at them all the time. And it's like, wait, now you're taking one form of ism and putting it on something else, just like you can overwork out, just like you can be too healthy. And, you know, you see those people that are so healthy and then they have a heart attack. It's like, you can do extreme and all of that. And if I think you're always in church, are you really out there living your life and being of service outside of your church community? It's about living your life. We're only here on earth for a certain amount of time. And anytime you do something to an extreme, if I'm always in a sex and love addict meeting, people would be like, wait, are you trying to avoid your life, actually living your life and now turning just to like the program? So I agree with you that I think people can be overly religious instead of being out there in the world and viewing other people's religion and what they go through and learning more and traveling and seeing the world. Like, I think that's more important than being in church or a 12-step program all the time.
No, I agree with you in that. And I've times heard people talk about what you just mentioned, which is leaving one addiction and just going to another addiction. Like, maybe you're a member, and I mentioned to you before that one of the places that I work at, is where the NA meets. But I do know for a fact that some of those folks that are still in NA are now, smoking cigarettes 5 or 6 times a day. So it's like they switch from one addiction to another.
The whack-a-mole. They call it the whack-a-mole. You know that old game where like you hit a thing and it goes down and then another thing pops up. It's like a whack-a-mole. You're whack-a-moling all these like isms down.
Wow. And I think that happens way too often, because it seems to me that a lot of times folks will have these addictions and then they'll like just switch to another one. They might even switch to another program, go from NA to AA to SA to a number of the other kind of anonymous programs that are out there, to even EA, Eating Anonymous, and all of that.
Well, the thing about that, though, I do have to tell you, they call AA the last house on the block. Like, it's the last house on the block. Nobody really wants to go. And they call Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous like the shack in the back, like you don't want to go to, like the worst place to go to. And what happens when people get rid of alcohol or smoking or doing drugs, underneath is that fear of abandonment, low self-worth, like no self-love. And that usually is in the form of sex and love addiction, that your core issues are from your past. Like your core was damaged in some way. There's trauma, you didn't get love you wanted when you were little, all that stuff. Usually on top of the other addictions is a sex and love addiction underneath.
And speaking of which, because I've had some friends, including some folks that I've been in past relationships with, and maybe even some current relationships with, and everything. And they oftentimes do talk about the trauma in their life, whether it's past trauma or traumas of that nature and everything. Do you think that you can get into a healthy relationship when you're in the middle of a trauma relationship? Because I do find that oftentimes is a question that even folks that I've talked to have been interested in. Like, they are not, we've talked before about the baggage, and they're wondering if they've set aside enough of their baggage in order to even move into a healthy relationship. So, like, at what point in your own life were you feeling comfortable enough that you want to go and marry the husband that you've been married to for several years
right
now?
Well, it took a long time for me. I mean, I said I took 10 years, 8 years before I was like, oh, I could get married. But for me, I mean, the first year, if someone's struggling, the first year of recovery is always the hardest. The withdrawal from sex and love addiction is so brutal that we had a guy come in one time and he said, I could quit heroin, but I can't quit her. That the withdrawal from sex, if you think about a relationship breaking up, then imagine it amplified. If you're a sex and love addict, everything is amplified. It's hysterical. It's historical. So you have to imagine, like, it's the worst pain you could ever go through. I went through a 9-month withdrawal. I was crawling on the floor almost every day, crying, and no one can fix that. I have to walk through that pain. And I realized, that first year of my sobriety, I couldn't sleep with my husband. We did not sleep together because I couldn't give myself when I didn't have myself. I had to get to know the real me, not what all the masks and things I've been putting on my whole life to survive, the trauma that I have. And it's very interesting. Not all sex and love addicts have trauma. But trauma makes it really difficult to be completely committed in a relationship, to be completely intimate, because when we have trauma, our growth is like damaged. Like, we stop growing where that trauma is. So I think it is very hard to get in a relationship if you're trying to heal from trauma. It's just difficult. You know, we had to have rules. My husband and I, he couldn't come in and fix me. He couldn't comfort me when I was crying. We, like I said, didn't have sex for a year. I couldn't be intimate. You know, it was tough. We were both willing to let go of the relationship, but the beautiful thing is we grew together instead of growing apart. And I was really lucky that I picked a man that was also in a 12-step program. He's sober in AA for 32 years now. So I picked somebody that understood what addiction looks like. But yeah, if you're going through trauma, it's very hard to be completely in a relationship without bringing that trauma into the relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like the one advantage y'all have is that y'all have both gone through the program together, different programs, but it's similar programs in the sense that you've been going through SLA and he's been going through AA and all of that. So definitely say that's a common bond that y'all have. One of the other things that I think I mentioned it the last time when you were on Brother Mike's show, but there are some things that sound like they should be addictions, and they probably are addictions. And you actually alluded to it earlier in this conversation and everything. But I also sometimes hear couples talking about it as if it's a healthy part of the relationship. And that's that whole concept of whether it's adult or whether it's definitely some of it is not good for us in any sense or form. But definitely you have folks that are talking about how the porn industry helps their relationships and helps them grow in their relationship because they use it as a tool within the relationship.
Yeah, totally.
So do you think that you can be in a relationship and still have those as a tool to use in the relationship, or is it something that is always going to be a negative aspect, or is it something that can be used as a tool? Because I know some folks that they see that as just something that they use to kind of like help them with their own libido and everything.
Yeah, no, I definitely think porn is there for a reason. It's fantasy. It is a tool. It's, you know, to bring conversation into an intimate situation or relationship. Porn becomes a problem when you have expectations of that's what a relationship looks like, or that's what it's a fantasy. It's just like a movie. People don't get that. But what's happening right now is porn is so accessible, and especially for men, but there is a lot of women I know that are porn addicts, but it's ruining intimacy for humanity. You know, young kids today are seeing porn way too young, where their brains aren't even developed to even know what that looks like. So they have these unrealistic expectations of a relationship, of the sexual act, and it is destroying this younger generation. We're really going to epidemic right now. They're saying that it is actually ruining humanity, how available in such a young age. But yes, a lot of people I know are porn addicts. They cannot have porn in their life at all. It's just it makes them be in fantasy instead of in the relationship. So if you're using it as a tool to be intimate with your partner or spice it up or whatever you want to do, that's one thing. But when it's a secret or it's shameful or you're doing it alone or it's keeping you from being intimate with your partner because you're, you know, masturbating or doing it by yourself, that's when it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. It's more dangerous than, you know, the opiate epidemic that's happening.
Wow. I never heard it described in that way and everything. And the other thing that I've always found curious about, and I don't think I mentioned this to you when you were on Brother Mike's show and everything, is another time that people talk about and oftentimes wonder about is at what point within the addiction is what some people might consider non-cheating actually part of the sex and love addiction. I know a number of folks that might sit there and have what they consider playful chats and all of that online and everything, but is that actually part of the sex and love addiction problem, or is that something that, like the porn, can also be a healthy part of the relationship and all of that? So is it something that is totally wrong in all senses?
I actually believe flirting and intriguing outside of your relationship is very dangerous, because a part of you is using your energy to connect with another person, whether it's fantasy, whether, you know, flirting is flirting, but it's still energy you're giving off that's probably meant for your partner. Right. And, you know, when they first told me, my sponsor first told me I can't flirt or intrigue with anybody, I was like, what? that is not happening, life would be so boring. What do you mean I can't go to the coffee shop and flirt with the worker while I'm giving him the money? Like, that's silly. Nothing's going on. And I realized doing this work that I was giving away a part of myself and giving that energy and wanting to rape somebody else's energy. It was to fill me. It wasn't even about them. It was like, make me feel better about myself, make me feel attractive, make me feel important. Like, I was raping them to make me feel better. So I believe if you're in a relationship and you're outside of it, DMing somebody flirtatious things, sending pictures, that to me is an emotional cheating, especially if it's a secret. Now, if you're flirting and your husband is there, your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever, whoever you're seeing, and they're a part of it and they're flirting, then that might be a tool. But I just feel like people become jealous. They misinterpret things. Things can get slippery. I just think anytime you go outside of your relationship to fulfill yourself is not a great thing. But I could be wrong. That's just my opinion.
No, and I appreciate it. And that, speaking of opinions, and I've heard different folks say this, and I've heard different people's opinions, and I'd love to hear yours, is that I've heard people say that they believe that everybody has one soulmate in life, whereas other people have said that they actually think that we have multiple soulmates in life and that they have different kinds of purposes, whether that is and it kind of comes to that old song that some people are there for a reason, some people are there for a season, and I forget the rest of that saying, but there's a whole saying that goes with that. But where is Brianne's thoughts about the soulmate? Like, I'm imagining that this husband of yours is your soulmate, but is that the only soulmate?
No, he is not. Here's the thing doing this work. There's no such thing as a soulmate. You're not cut in half looking for your other half around the world. That stuff is such baloney. It's so made up. Yes, you have other people that come in and out of your life and that you learn something and you're taught something either about yourself or about them. And then they're done. None of those people are your soulmates. Your soulmate is yourself. You live and die with yourself. You need to be in love with yourself. And that's what I'm trying to teach and talk about in the book. The only thing that matters in the end is if you have self-love. And, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous, it's not about finding the perfect partner or your soulmate or someone to complete you. You're complete just as you are now. You don't need anybody to complete you. That the one thing you have is self-love. And that's what they teach in the program. It's self-love. And honestly, it's like, the work I have done, no one can take from me. My husband can leave me tomorrow. I will be sad. I will be upset. He is a great partner. We are life partners, but he does not complete me at all. My son does not complete me. No one can complete me because the problem is all that can be taken away. Career can be taken away. Money can be taken away. The one thing that can't be taken away is my self-love. That is mine. And I will be buried with it. So I am my own soulmate.
And speaking of self-love and being your own soulmate, and I definitely agree with you that that's the most important person to have that understanding with and everything. But you actually bring up an interesting point, and we actually alluded to it with Hollywood, and I kind of alluded to it with the church. But aren't our institutions really messing with us? Because aren't you really fighting an uphill struggle? Because I know we just had a lady on that's actually doing a similar kind of battle, but she's doing it with the sports world. She's actually fighting against the NFL and some of the things that they're doing wrong in the ways that they treat the athletes and all of that. And she's the wife of an athlete, and all along those lines and everything. So she's got NFL sisters in service. But I was thinking the same thing that I was thinking as you were talking about this conversation that we're having now, that too often our schools, our religious institutions, and I won't put them in just Christian churches. I'd name just about any of our religious institutions, whether it's Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, or whatever, are actually teaching us that we have to have that soulmate, that we have to have that other half. And then sometimes they even kind of like get upset with you if you were to go down. And like I said, not wishing that on you, but if you were to go down the divorce path, because I've had friends of mine that have gotten divorced out of those institutions and are ostracized because they've been divorced, and the society has taught them that they're supposed to be in these picture perfect relationships according to what society has said they should be in and all of that. So I was just wondering, are you feeling that in some ways, do you feel in this work that you're doing that you're almost like Don Quixote and that you're tilted at the windmills?
Well, that's a double-edged question you just asked me, double-edged sword that you just asked me, because I believe that many people are divorcing because their partner is not fulfilling them, and their partner is not a good partner, or the love is gone is what I hear a lot. And it's like, no, because anybody you get with, even if you feel the butterflies, is going to fade. Marriage is work. It is hard work, but it's also the easiest work. If you pick the right partner, that is the easiest and it's the hardest at the same time. I always like to say, if you're in a good relationship, if there's not a lot of drama, there's conversations, you have to have uncomfortable conversations. But if there's a lot of drama in your relationship or in your parents' relationship or in your friend's relationship, usually there's some work that needs to be done there. But I do think society right now is too quick to divorce. They're not willing to do the uncomfortable work. And what's going to happen is you go into a next relationship, you're bringing in the same issues normally.
Right.
But do I think, Hollywood and religion has this idea of what a perfect relationship could look like? Yes. And I think that's where I'm trying to blow open the doors and say, that's not realistic. That's not possible. You can't sustain a relationship that way. So yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm like knocking on a door and nobody wants to answer, or they don't want to hear me. But, I hopefully help one person out there see like, maybe it's worth sticking it through this marriage, doing the hard work, looking at myself, why I keep doing this, why I'm not completely connected to my partner, why I'm not communicating my needs, that work, because I think people bail out too early, thinking that the next person's going to be it or fix them. And it's not. You're going to usually go through the same exact thing.
You're going to go through the same thing. And a lot of times I also wonder about, and this is a global thing, if we don't get caught up, not just in American societal issues, but even societal issues in other parts of the world and everything. Because I know there was a time many years ago that Black and white couples would be almost ostracized and things of that nature. But that's not that much of a thing for a lot of folks. I mean, there's still some racists out there that it is a thing for them. But for the majority of society, I don't think that it's a big deal if they see a Black or white couple out there. But they do still kind of turn their heads if they see, and they know it, a Muslim and a Christian, or if they see somebody that's got a 20 or a 30-year age gap. So we do still see some of those things that are out there and all. But I was just wondering your thoughts on that, because I'm actually one of those people that is open toward all possibilities in life and everything. So I try not to close doors until I've learned that that relationship isn't going to work and the door needs to be closed. But I leave myself open to being in relationships, not just with somebody of Black and Native background, like my own background, but also somebody that's white or somebody that's, like I said, I consider myself spiritual, but if they are of a religion, I'm open to that. And I'm also open to like age gaps and everything of that nature. But I do think that sometimes society also turns around and looks at you and kind of
course. I mean, we're human. I mean, society, we're all so judgmental,
Right.
It's like stay in your own lane. I don't have any problem with people who they're going to love or whatever. That's their business. It's just as long as it's healthy and people are committed, then I don't have a problem with anybody loving each other. That's none of my business. And I think as society, we're very judgmental and quick to, scold somebody. And it's like, no, why don't you just stay in your own lane, do work on yourself, take care of yourself and be a good person. But I have to go soon. It's been an hour. It's been so great talking to you. I love talking to you. As you know, we could literally talk for hours.
We could literally talk for hours. I know you got to bounce. I'm waiting for some other guests to come in as well. So I knew you had to bounce, but I do appreciate you being on. And I definitely, like you said, we could easily talk for an hour on in and all of that. We just have fascinating conversations, and you're always welcome to come back anytime that you're available and all of that. So definitely, and at some point I've got to get on. Don't know that I have any earth-shattering secrets, but I'll see if I can dig up some and possibly on the secret podcast and all of that. So I have to appear on your show at some point as well. But as I was telling the other guest earlier, I definitely was going to give you that opportunity also. So any words of encouragement that you want to share with our global community before you bounce off, I would love to hear those words of encouragement.
Yeah, if you're struggling in any way, especially in the love arena or sex arena, or you find yourself getting in the same relationship over and over again, there is a way out of that pain, of that uncomfortableness. You please go online, look at those 40 questions, see how many you answer, and jump on a meeting on Zoom. They're all over the world now. You know, LA has the biggest, but we have tons of meetings. There's New York, London, Australia. So there is help, and people are there to be and to support. And if you want to read about it in an entertaining way, please get my book, Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict. It's very entertaining. When I started my recovery process, every book I picked up about sex or love addiction was so academic. It was so educational. I was like, ugh, I just wanted to throw it against the wall. So I didn't want to. I wrote a book that was entertaining, and it can tell you about Hollywood inside stories, but also teach you about the addiction. So if you want to get it, it's available on Amazon Valentine's weekend, Friday. It's available now. You can order it. So I'm just so grateful to be on. And everybody, if you need help, you can DM me on my Instagram at the Brianne Davis, and I'll point you in the right direction. If you're struggling, you can reach out to me.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. I know folks will probably be taking you up on that and everything.
Please.
So definitely, I'm hoping they'll do that. As you're walking out the door, is there one quick story that you can share from the book? I had my other guest do that earlier as well. So is there one quick story that you want to share as you walk out the door?
Oh, yeah. The opening scene of the book is Roxanne, the main character, based on my life. It's a Roma clef fiction, so there is imagination, but I changed everybody's name. You'll never know who I'm talking about. You can try to guess. But yeah, she's confronted with her two guys she's been dating that both think they're her boyfriends, and they're out of town, and she's confronted right at the beginning of the book. And you get to hear her inner dialogue and her getting caught and going through that, bottom journey. You see her hit her bottom and the addiction in the first chapter. And it's available right now to read for free on secretlifenovel.com if you want to see. The first chapter is available, so go preview it. And if you love it, check out the book. I promise you will get a lot of great listens from the program and my own journey.
It sounds like it's an amazing story. I'm sure that folks will thoroughly be enjoying it. I look forward to catching up with you at some later point and all of that. Are there any shows that you are in coming up soon that are in that Hollywood space? I meant to ask you that before. So do you have any TV shows or movies that are coming up that folks can see you outside of the book publicity so we can actually see you on the big screen or the little screen?
Well, right now, Lucifer season 5. I'm on Lucifer season 5 on Netflix, and Hulu right now is running 6. The show I was on for 2 years, season 1 and 2 on Hulu called 6. It was on A&E and History. Jarhead is on Showtime right now running. Prom Night has been on HBO running. And Fox, I think, FX did it. But then I also just had a movie come out called Dead Water, and that is available on Hulu right now. And then the other one that I just did is The Secret Life of a Celebrity Surrogate, was just on Lifetime, and it's doing reruns. It was just last weekend it was on. So yeah, I'm all over the place, not in a gross way, but in a actress way. So please check it out if you want to see. Just you can go online and see what other stuff I've been on. I've literally been on almost every show. Girl, you're like, oh wait, I've seen you before. Yeah, that's me.
Yep, she's been doing great things actually after the Super Bowl, and I was disappointed that Tom Brady won, but that's just the way things go and everything. I was rooting for Kansas City, but Tom Brady won, and I just have to live with it. But I did watch the show afterwards of Equalizer, and I was not sure I was actually going to like Queen Latifah in that role, but I thought she actually did a wonderful job and did a good job in that role. Because like I said, I remember the old Equalizer that was on TV, and then somebody reminded me that there was also the movie version, which I think Denzel did and everything. But definitely I was expecting that I was not knowing what to expect. And, sometimes when some of you great actresses appear on shows that have already been done, you're sometimes going like, I don't know if I can get past the old role and everything. But in the case of Equalizer with Queen Latifah, I would definitely recommend it from what I saw in the first episode, because definitely looks like she did a great job and maintained that same storyline of the mysterious boss and a lot of the other things. I think that there may be a child involved since she is a woman character, whereas the old character on the TV show did not have a child. And I don't think Denzel's character did either, but definitely they did add that element and maybe a couple of other elements, but it definitely worked as a remake. So I'm hoping that it'll stick on the air and do well, because I was quite pleased with what I saw and all of that.
I'll have to check it out. It was so good to see you. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
All right. That was Brianne Davis sharing a lot of her powerful messages and all of that. And I definitely appreciated her being on and joining us and that. So I'm going to put on some music. It is a Mullins and Music and Memories. I'm going to give y'all a little bit of blues sounds. I'm going to wait to hear whether I can catch up with a gospel singer that I think I'm expecting to be catching up with as well. So definitely, hopefully they'll be popping up very soon with them and listen to some of their music. But in the meantime, I'm going to see about getting some music up for y'all to listen to. And I think that this time we're going to listen to some great sounds of none other than one of my go-tos, that being Albert King. You never go wrong with Albert King and all of that, a true legend of the blues. So I'm going to give y'all a little dose of Albert King, Born Under a Bad Sign. And actually, I think I'm going to give y'all a big version of it, maybe one of the extended plays and all of that. So I think we're going to give you one that he did when he was in Sweden. And this looks like a very good extended play and all of that. So you're going to give y'all a taste of Albert King, and then we'll come back with some more great discussions, hopefully, as well. So definitely, as part of our Mullins Music and Memories, we're going to give you a taste of Albert King and what Albert King is all about. So definitely, and I'm going to reach out to Miss Wendy and see if she's on her way as well. But definitely, I think y'all are in for a definite treat with some music from none other than Albert King. So if y'all will hold on, we'll get ready to bring that up, and y'all will enjoy this, I hope. And like I said, I will then reach out and see about my other guests and if they are en route or not en route. So that is the game plan as of right now. So we're going to see how this all works out, and we're going to bring that sounds up right now, and then hopefully y'all will enjoy it. Like I said, more amazing discussions that were held and all of that. So I know that y'all were thoroughly enjoying yourselves, and we're going to bring you a little bit of the music sounds, and then I'm going to check on one of my other guests and see if they're en route also. But definitely, it was great hearing from Brianne Davis, as well as hearing from some of our other guests as well. So definitely, Jason was a great guest, as was Brianne, and looking forward to having some other guests up here as well. So definitely keep all of that in mind as I get ready to bring you some great sounds from right here in the Durham area. So, love giving you great sounds from right here in our Durham community and all of that. So get ready to let y'all check out some amazing blues music, because y'all know I am a big time blues fan. So let y'all check out a little bit of Albert King and what Albert King is all about as well. So hoping that y'all will enjoy these sounds, and we'll get in touch with some other folks and see if they're going to show up also, and how they're going to enjoy conversation with us and all of that. So looking forward to some more amazing conversations. But right now, let's check out the music of Albert King.
since I was 10, for none of bad sign. Been down since I began to call. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all. I can't read, I didn't learn how to write. My whole life has been one big fight for none of bad sign. Been down since I began to crawl. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all. Well, I was a farmer first, and then went to a mechanic, automobile mechanic. And I left that, and then I started working in heavy equipment, like I was a bulldozer operator after I learned how. You know? And all the time of this, from the mechanic up until now, I was still working with my guitar. So in 1950, I left the South and went to Indiana, South Bend, Indiana. And it wasn't what I wanted, so I moved to Gary, Indiana. And this is where it all got started at. I started out playing drums with Jimmy Reed. I'm playing drums on all his first big tunes, you know. And after he went big, and I ran up and down the road with him a while, and I got tired of that. I said, well, I'm going to make my own records, you know. So I went into Chicago, and I recorded my first record. It was just a 45 on the Parrot Recording Company, with Parrot Recording Company. Al Benson, he was a disc jockey up there. Oh, it done well. I didn't get no money, but it done real well, you know. So after that, I started to recording with Bobbin Records out of St. Louis. And that's when I made Traveling to California and Don't Throw Your Love on Me So Strong, and I Get Evil. That was the name of the tunes, you know. And then after that, I did one session with a little small label called LG Label. That was out of East St. Louis. And I stopped recording then for a while. And then later I went with Stax in Memphis. And that's where it all happened at, Stax.
Well, all those years when you had other jobs and tried to get ahead as a musician, what did those years mean to you?
Well, they were great years, and that's where I got all of my experience from. You know, the tough going and low pay, sometimes no pay. You know, you had to pay your dues all the way up to that. So I didn't stop. That didn't stop me. I kept right on pushing, you know. And then I had a little band in Arkansas called In the Groove Band. So I couldn't get those guys to do right. So I left and went back to St. Louis again, you know, and started playing around there. And I finally built me a band, a good one. And I played around St. Louis for a long time. Every now and then, every so often, I would go out of town, play out-of-town engagements.
How come you did choose the guitar as your instrument to play the blues on?
Well, that's the best. I felt like I could get a better sound, and I could speak my feelings on this guitar better than I could them drums, you know, because drummer is all over. But now, guitar player with his own style and ideas and I just think they're hard to find. So I lay with the guitar.
But what do you want to give the audience?
Well, I don't know. I just give them what I got. That's all. I want them to be happy. I like to do a good show, you know, and that's about it, you know. I hope everybody be pleased when they leave, you know, and be satisfied. But I can always tell if they enjoy the music because when I get started to playing, should I say, we get started the plan. Then if they start moving, then I know they're doing all right. But if they just sit there and look at you, they ain't doing so good. That's the way I always feel.
Which is the most common case? They just sit there, or they enjoy it really?
Well, some of them do, and then some. You can't please everybody, you know. But I try hard to. But you can tell if you're in a place often enough, you can tell whether they like you or not. They'll come back. And if they don't come back, then you know it's something you were doing wrong. They didn't
You try to correct it?
Oh, yeah. But you got to first find out what it is. As long as I've been in the business, don't take but a few minutes for me to know that something ain't being played right, the sound is too loud, something. It wasn't advertised good enough, you know, something. Yeah, you can easily tell. It's no problem.
All right, folks, that was a little bit about Albert King and all his story and all of that. So definitely giving y'all a little bit of a treat there. I might give you some more of a music treat later on as part of Mullings Music and Memories, but definitely got a lot of things going on. Hoping that a gentleman who's got a bourbon company will be joining us very soon as well. So I'm waiting to hear whether he's going to be popping in and sharing what he's got going on and all of that, because I was hearing him talk about some things that he's got going on in his community, and I'm hoping that he's going to join us very shortly, and we'll have a conversation with Jesse Carpenter, hopefully in a little bit of time and all of that. He sent out some very interesting facts about a gentleman and all of that was involved in horse racing. So I'm actually going to share a little bit of that information that he sent. I found this to be quite fascinating, some of the things that we don't know about our old history and all of that. So definitely they're putting out some bourbon company, Old Hillside Bourbon Company, Black History Facts. And one of the things that they said was in sports, the term the GOAT, greatest of all time, will forever be debated. And there's no doubt about that. Some folks are actually still trying to figure out whether Michael Jackson is the main GOAT or whether there's some other folks that are the main GOATs as well. But they were saying that definitely Michael Jordan's name will be mentioned. And to take it a step further, imagine if the participants had never heard of Michael Jordan. Well, Isaac Burns Murphy is considered the greatest jockey of all time, and most have never heard of him. That's right. He's considered one of the greatest jockeys of all time. He was the first jockey to win 3 Kentucky Derbies and was the only jockey to win the Kentucky Oaks, the Kentucky Derby, and the Clark Handicap all in the same year. That amazing feat was accomplished way back in 1884. So we're talking many, many years ago, decades ago, and all of that. He won over 44%. That's 628 out of 1,412 of his races, which is a record that most experts agree will never be broken. I don't know many folks that are going to get close to 50% on anything in terms of those kind of wins and all of that. So definitely that's a record that probably won't be broken in a lot of sports. Mr. Murphy was the jockey when Kingman won the Kentucky Derby. To date, this is the only horse owned by an African-American, Dudley Allen, to win the Kentucky Derby. He was the first jockey inducted into the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame in Saratoga Springs, New York. He is also one of only 2 African-American jockeys to have received this honor. So definitely looks like he's doing some amazing things and all of that, or did some amazing things. That's right. You got to put it in the past tense and all of that. So definitely that was something that they sent out, and definitely looking forward to finding out more about that historical fact and maybe some other historical facts that Jesse may share with us as well when he makes his appearance here. And I'm hoping that he'll be making an appearance in a little bit and all of that. So definitely some great conversations, and has been said by a couple of friends of mine. We've had some really good conversations on this particular afternoon. And of course, I try to bring y'all all kinds of great conversations on a regular basis here on the international broadcast media. I try to bring you all kinds of conversations about everything from nutrition to conquering setbacks and a number of other things. So definitely enjoying having these amazing conversations with the great guests that we find for you from around the globe and definitely from around the country and right here in North Carolina as well. But I do try to find you guests from all over because definitely it is very much enjoyable learning more and more about these amazing folks and what they are doing in their lives. So definitely was glad to have that opportunity to provide you with some great guests, some of which you have heard before. Like we've definitely heard from Kara before, and we've definitely heard from Carl Watkins, but then I brought you some new people as well. So it was definitely good having those new people in our conversation also. So definitely always great learning new people and definitely learning about them and the various things that they have going on in their lives. So definitely that's some of the things that have been happening on this end. Of course, we are in the middle of the home stretch hour. Well, not quite the home stretch hour because it's not quite 6 o'clock, but almost the home stretch hour for our show, Mullings Music and Memory. So definitely glad to have a lot of folks involved in that, and glad to be able to have a great conversation on a number of things. As a matter of fact, I was just saying that Charles, who I had on earlier, he was doing some great things and is doing some great things in our theater community and all of that. So definitely was amazing having that conversation with him about what he's doing and learning about some other folks as well. So definitely do keep your radio, or actually I should say your internet, locked into this network, which is the International Broadcast Media, where we have all kinds of great shows on a regular and consistent basis. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring up some of the shows that we've got so that you can check them out while I wait to see if the one of the other guests will be making an appearance as well. But while we're doing that, we want you to check out some of the other truly amazing shows that exist right here on this network that I think that many of you will find interesting and delightful and all of that. And I see that my other guest has appeared, so I'm looking forward to bringing him in so we don't even have to get to those clips and everything. So I think I'll run maybe one or two of the clips, and then after that I will bring in none other than Jesse Carpenter in, and he can talk about what he's got going on as well, because we do have some great shows that exist here on our network. One of them is a show that my friend does about whiteboarding ideas like TV shows and movies and a number of other things. So right now we're going to let you check out about Talking Upstream, which airs on Sundays. And don't forget that new website is actually ibmtv.tv. So check that out and check out all the amazing shows that happen here on a regular basis. Like I said, I've had the pleasure of talking to a couple of folks in the liquor business, having done on different podcasts the conversation with Southern Wicked Lemonade, and now that being my friend T. Naomi Lucas. And then, of course, right here on this network, we've got Shoe Crazy that has a talk show on Friday nights on a regular basis, which is a wine-based company with Gwen Hurt and a number of others. And then on one of my other more audio podcasts, I've had the pleasure of talking to the folks that are connected with Harlem Brewing. But right now I'm here to bring in Jesse Carpenter, and I was actually sharing one of the facts that he shared on LinkedIn. So absolutely glad to have Jesse on and all of that. So Jesse, glad that you were able to join us, have a great conversation with us, and learn more about what you've got going on with this thing that's got the bull in the title. So I saw that it's got Hillside, so I'm thinking it might be connected to the school and all of that. So definitely wanted to know if it's connected to the Hillside High School, and seems like y'all have a great kind of new product that y'all have got out there? And then I also saw that y'all were putting out some Black History facts. So I actually just read about the fact that y'all gave about that jockey, which I did not know about that particular gentleman and all of that. So you gave some great information. There was even news to me and everything. So tell folks about this great the company that you've got that's got this bourbon and is right here based in the Durham area, it looks like.
Sure. As for the Isaac Murphy fact, we have a documentary coming out soon. About the life of Isaac Murphy. Incredible guy. He's the Michael Jordan of horse racing, and nobody knows who he is. So we want to make sure his name gets out there. I'm the founder of a company called Old Hillside Bourbon Company. It's just a bunch of us guys who went to Hillside High School a long time ago. I don't want to give my age, but we went a long time ago. So we decided to start a bourbon company about a year ago, and we are in the final stages of launching.
Okay. Yeah, because I knew there was, I think, one other bourbon company that had some Durham roots sometime back, and I remember one of the gentlemen, I think it was Ralph Frazier or somebody like that, one of the lawyers was involved with that one and everything. So I'm not sure if that's connected to what y'all are doing or not connected, but definitely I remember that they were doing something. But I'm glad that y'all are representing Hillside, because even though I did not go to Hillside, my dad went to Hillside way back when, back probably, I was born in the 60s, so it's probably like in the 50s when he was there. And my younger brother actually graduated in 1987. So he was definitely a Hillside graduate. I, unfortunately or fortunately, went to school out of state and everything. So I was in school, not out of state, but out of city. So out of Durham. So I was actually going to high school in Warrenton, North Carolina. So I was one of the last graduating class of John Graham. So I did not get the Hillside experience, but my friend Ray Pascal and a number of other folks are definitely Hillside alumni, and I do have Hillside alumni in my family. So Hillside has always had a special place in my heart, and I consider myself like an honorary Eagle and honorary Hornet as well.
I'm an official Hornet and official Eagle. So I will allow you in the family. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot and everything. So you said that y'all started this idea. Are all the guys entrepreneurs from other kinds of businesses, or did y'all just decide that y'all wanted to get into this liquor business? And what drew you into the liquor business? So,
to tell our story, it's a little bit better to understand. I moved to Lexington about 6.5 years ago, and trying to get, if you know anything about Lexington, Kentucky is bourbon, horse racing, and basketball. So I started exploring the area, and I saw this. It was some graffiti art downtown. So I took a picture and I posted on Facebook. And one of my best friends had posted the same picture 2 days ago.
Wow.
2 days prior, he was in Lexington, and he saw my picture, and he was like, "Dude, I was just there. I got friends up there." He was like, "You know what? I'll be up there in 2 days." So he came up, and we started touring the distilleries, and there's a huge horse racing event that takes place right before the Derby, the whole month of April, called Kingland. So we invited some friends up, and we started doing it every single year.
Okay.
Every single year. So in 2019, we actually toured a distillery, and the gentleman let us put our hands in the bourbon, and our hand was so soft. And my friend joked, he was like, "Hey, they should actually start some bourbon hand sanitizer."
Right.
Joking and laughing. Fast forward, 2020, we had a huge event planned, and COVID hit.
Right.
And so now every distillery in Kentucky started producing hand sanitizer. And so my friend called, was like, "The next time we have an idea, I'm not sleeping on it. Let's just do it." So I woke up June 1st, 2020, and I was like, Old Hillside Bourbon Company. I'm starting.
Okay.
I called a couple friends. I pitched the idea, and I'm just waiting for them to tell me I was an idiot or I was stupid. The phone got quiet, and they said, "All right, man, let's do it." And so I was like, "Oh, you sure?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "How?" He said, "I don't know, but let's figure it out." So we knew we love bourbon, we love horse racing, and the rest is history. So a whole bunch of us Hillside guys came together, friends since the 90s. Some of us met at W.G. Pearson in Durham, and some of us met at Rogers Hare, a middle school, and we're all came together and started this project. So I don't know if you can see our logo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Old Hillside Bourbon Company. Hey, we got the bull, representing the bull, as well as the horse racing. The black jockeys is who we want to kind of target. So hey, we're gonna make this entire project about Durham. So even on our bottles, on our labels, we got a whole bunch of Durham Easter eggs hidden throughout the bottles. So we're gonna really engage Durham in this project, even though we're in Kentucky. But we're really going to engage Durham in this project.
Yeah, it sounds like y'all are definitely going to engage Durham a lot. So are the partners mostly in Durham now, or are most of the partners currently in Lexington, Kentucky?
No, I'm the only one in Lexington, Kentucky, and since the bourbon is here, I'm just gonna, I'm here. So we do have a partner that's actually in Durham, and our other partner, he's from Durham, but he works for ESPN out in California. So yeah, very a diverse group. And I also I hired my son to run our social media. So I'm gonna bring him in. He runs our social media. Hello.
Hello.
His name is Corey Carpenter. He's our director of social media. So all the items that you see on our LinkedIn and everything comes from this gentleman right here. So I really want to keep that family fair as well as just keep it Hillside,
And you actually bring up something in the history fact that I think a lot of folks don't realize, which is the fact that when the Kentucky Derby and a lot of these other races were starting, there were a lot of black jockeys, but a lot of times people leave out that part of the history. And it sounds to me that that's part of what y'all are going to try to let folks know about, is that part of our heritage. The fact that there were a lot of black jockeys. Now we see a lot of Latin jockeys and other races and ethnicities, but definitely in the early days, it was a lot of black jockeys.
Yeah, in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, our footprint on the sport was unparalleled. Like it was two 15-year-olds are the youngest to ever win the Kentucky Derby. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but they were 15 years old, African American kids. 1896 and 1898. They won the Derby, the most prominent horse, and two 15-year-old African American kids won it.
Wow, that's just amazing.
And back to Isaac Murphy. Yeah. So I'm hearing a story that
a little bit
that the slaves were sold, and they actually went for more if they had in horse racing. So they sold for more if they knew how to train horses or ride horses. So the African American presence in horse racing is huge, and we want to kind of highlight that as one.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like y'all are doing a great job of highlighting that part of the history, and folks are going to learn a lot more about that and everything. A lot of times folks don't even think about the fact of our presence in the whole liquor industry as well. And like I said, I've had a couple of other folks that have had liquor companies, and they even talked about some of the race cars and NASCAR and how that was very much part of our heritage as well. So are y'all going to incorporate some of that history also in your marketing and in the way y'all get the word out? Because a lot of times folks don't even think about the fact of our NASCAR connections and all of that.
Yeah. So as far as the whiskey side, our tagline is history, heritage, homage. So we want to highlight the history, pay homage to it, and highlight some of the like Uncle Nearest. We actually got a few Easter eggs hidden on our label that is homage to him and how he taught Jack Daniels how to distill. And those guys at Uncle Nearest now, I think her name is Beaver, some lady, awesome individual. She's doing a lot to bring his name into the forefront. So also we got a friend out in California named Ray Walker who owns a St. Cloud bourbon, awesome brand. And he's a good friend of ours too. So just kind of link with the people who look like we do. do is our, it's not many of us in there, but we definitely are.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've ever had a chance to talk to Miss Lucas, but I know I think is a UNC graduate, but she's got one that's got that Southern Wicked Lemonade, which I believe is also in that same category, and they're based here in the Triangle as well. I think she's been doing it for a number of years, but it's like you said, she has totally switched, well, not totally, but did quite a bit of switching to hand sanitizer because of the fact that we're in the pandemic and everything along those lines. So I know a number of companies that have been strictly liquor have now gone into hand sanitizers because there's still that massive need until we all get vaccinated, assuming that everybody decides to go that route.
Well, I work in the pharmaceutical industry, so I got my first dose. I know there's some controversy around it, but I'm not gonna get into that. I understand the ins and outs. I make a injectable, so I know that the product is safe. So I can't convince some, and some, it sells itself. But get vaccinated if you can. That's the only way this is going to get back to normal.
Oh yeah, definitely. We got to get back to normal and everything. How are you even going to get the business going? Because it's a new business and everything when we're in the middle of COVID. So what have been some of the heartaches and headaches that y'all have had even trying to get it off the ground and everything? Because I'm imagining that y'all have had a couple of dilemmas just trying to get it launched in this time.
Yeah. So as far as that, on the licenses, it's taking a lot longer because for some reason in Kentucky, though, a bourbon is considered essential. So it's kind of worked out in our favor. So we actually got all our permits and stuff fairly easy. It was some delays, but a couple of our partners, we actually sourcing our bourbon from a distillery up north, and we haven't had a chance to be on site to actually pick out barrels and stuff like that. But we are doing some virtual samplings and via mail and stuff like that. So that's been our biggest hurdle, but it's definitely moving forward. And the timeline, we kind of stretched the time out. I'm a lot longer to cover for the setbacks, but we are.
And are y'all already in any stores or restaurants right now, even there in Kentucky, or are y'all going to think about doing that probably closer toward the middle to the end of this year and everything, as we're already in February?
So if you don't know anything about bourbon, a bourbon ages in barrels, and why Kentucky is prominent because Kentucky has 4 seasons, and in the cold weather the bourbon goes in the barrel. In hot weather, it comes out, and that's how bourbon gets its colors and its flavors. Right. So we actually decided to leave our 4-year bourbon in the barrel through the winter, and so we're planning on bottling April, May. They try to release right before the Derby, so the Kentucky Derby. But if COVID cancels that, we may push it back to midsummer or so. But definitely late spring, early summer.
And is there any word yet as to whether the Kentucky Derby will happen? Because I know last year all the races were pretty much not held because of the pandemic and all of that. And I am a big fan of horse racing, a fan of the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup and a number of the other ones. I've always said that at some point I was going to make it to the Kentucky Derby because I know that that's just one big party and everything. Yeah, but I have yet to make it there. But definitely, what are you hearing from the whole Kentucky industry as to whether the horse race will take place this year or not?
So the pre-races are here in Lexington at that festival I mentioned earlier called Keeneland. It's a month-long pre-race. So a lot of the Derby horses race here in Lexington. So as of right now, Keeneland has not released anything, but they are selling tickets to the events. So. Okay. So it's looking good. But we had our fingers crossed last year, and I know you saw what we got. So I'm optimistic, but I am a realist. Right. If we don't have it, there will be a lot of virtual tastings and try to do the best we can on a marketing standpoint to get the word out.
Yeah, those virtual tastings, those can go quite well and everything. I know a buddy of mine, he helps market for one of the local wine companies, and he's done a couple of virtual events as well as smaller events and things of that nature. I mean, we just saw the Super Bowl. There was a lot smaller crowd than what we're used to seeing at a Super Bowl game and everything. Because while I was watching the game yesterday, I'm going like, wait a minute, there's only like 20,000 people and maybe 20,000 cardboards, but there's supposed to be like hundreds of thousands of folks in that audience.
We're trying to tag on to whatever events we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely tag on to those events.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Yeah, so so that's the plan, man, to try to tag on any events we can, virtual tastings, even if we got to have some bottle signings with limited crowds, and we're willing to do that. So.
And are y'all going to do any special events here in Durham? Because like I said, it definitely has some Durham roots. So I imagine with y'all being Hillside graduates that y'all are going to try to do some stuff connected with maybe either Central Homecoming or Hillside's Homecoming or a number of other things that are affiliated here, even maybe like a Juneteenth celebration. I don't know if you've been in touch with Phyllis Coley with Spectacular Magazine, who does that big event, or a number of the other events that are still in the planning stages and are hopefully going to be taking place in 2021.
Yeah, the plan is to have something around Hillside or Central's Homecoming. I try to not attach it to the school events because I know it's frowned upon. But definitely have a tasting or some type of launch party down in Durham. It has to be in Durham.
Definitely has to be in Durham. I had some other entrepreneurs that were on earlier and everything, and they were just talking about the different ways that they get inspired as entrepreneurs. So I will ask you the same thing that I asked them, as to who are some of the folks, whether they were folks from Durham or even folks historically, that have inspired you to be an entrepreneur, and what kind of advice would you give to folks that are even thinking they want to go into that entrepreneurial space?
As for me, I was kind of raised a different where my family kind of discouraged the entrepreneur side. They actually say, hey, go get a corporate job. It's safer. So for me, actually bringing my son on, and he's actually an inspiration to me, just watching him actually want to be a part of us doing something that we have never talked about or never done before. So he's actually inspiring me. But as far as, I just love to see successful people, even if you're not a successful people, talking about their story and their journey, and who truly want to see other people succeed. That's our mission, man. Hey, we want to give back to Hillside. Ironically, I don't know if you know this, but old Hillside is now the chemistry building for NCCU.
Right.
And Bourbon is all chemistry. So our plan is to find a chemistry scholar out of Hillside, pay his way through Central and make him our master distiller, our first Black a master distiller. That's our plans. That's what we want to do to get back and try to encourage that entrepreneurism through a scene. That's what inspires me.
Yeah, that would be truly amazing and everything if y'all can do that and all. You had mentioned the movie about the horse racer and all of that. Is the movie something that y'all are doing as part of the company, and is that another revenue of income and everything, or is that going to be like a whole separate department where y'all will be working with movie makers and trying to make movies that are positive images about folks in general? So is this going to be part of the whole kind of brand and all, and is the movie house or maybe a movie making house part of what y'all are doing?
So one of our partners, cousin, he's a filmmaker out of Detroit, and he does a near channel on YouTube. He releases a different Black Pioneers episode every week, and we're going to get him to do a small 45-minute documentary on Isaac Murphy, which in turn try to pitch a larger project to whoever's interested in it. But it's free. It's free. Hey, we're not trying to make any money off of it. we have to put the awareness out there on who this guy is, and like I said in the post, imagine in 100 years people debating who's the best basketball player, and people don't even know who Michael Jordan is.
Wow.
It's so hard to believe, but this guy, Michael Jordan, a 40% win percentage in horse racing it's unheard of. It would never be done again. And he looks like we do. He looks like we do, and nobody knows who he is.
Nobody knows who he is at
so,
all.
Nobody knows who he is, and it's So the plan is every year, a year around the Derby, they release a bottle with some type of artwork, representing him or any other of the jockeys, like the two 15-year-olds. I think one of them name is Soup Clayton. I'll get the name. I apologize. I don't remember the name, but these kids were phenomenal. And nobody knows who they are. And it's sad. It's sad. It's like, I think about if your dad, he went to probably Whitted High School with the Pony Express.
Right.
So like when I would tell my son about this story, he was like, no way. I was like, these guys were that good.
Yeah.
So even that story needs to be told. And there's hundreds of stories like that haven't been told. And what's crazy is I met a gentleman. His name is Warren Rogers, and he's probably going to get mad. I said his name on this, but his company was enlisted to exhume Isaac Murphy's body and relocate it to the Kentucky Horse Park.
Oh wow!
And so his story is amazing. So he said that when he touched this guy's bones, something spiritually happened to him. He's not a spiritual guy, but he said he can't describe it. So from that point on, he's been trying to get his story out. And he's behind his project. He wants this story told as much as we are.
Oh yeah, sounds like a definite story that needs to be told. And like you said, so many of the stories, if they've been told, they've not been told the full story. Because I know a lot of folks who know the Algonquin Tennis Club, but I don't know that they know the full story about the Algonquin Tennis Club and all the great folks that they played and all of that, and definitely the track runners that used to be at Central, and a number of other stories that are still out there that have not been told in their full context. So I would agree with you that there are a lot of great history here in this area, particularly in sports and science and the arts. A lot of folks don't even know necessarily about Pigmeat Mark, even though he was definitely a true legend here and all of that. But
definitely of rap music, Pigmeat. Yeah. A lot of people have no clue. Hey, he's from Durham. He's not from New York. I don't care what they say. He's from Durham.
Yep. A lot of folks don't know that. They don't know about that connection that he's got to Durham and all of that. And there's so many stories like that need to get out there. So hopefully y'all will do a good job of getting that word out. What do you think is some of the, and it's something that I asked one of my earlier guests, the misconceptions people have both about horse racing and about Lexington in general? Because we were just talking about misconceptions, because I find that a lot of times folks have all kinds of misconceptions about life in general. So what are some of the misconceptions that you think folks have about horse racing and Lexington, to be specific?
It's not a lot of us in there. So, hey, we used to go to the horse racing, and we dress up and we get there. We're literally the only Black people there. Right. But it's not representative of what it is, because if you know the story of Isaac Burns Murphy, he was one of the first millionaires, African-American millionaires here in Kentucky. And his house was on the east end of Lexington, and that is the predominant African-American part of Lexington. And so he has a memorial on the east end. And so, his mansion is still in the east end, so that's one of the biggest, the biggest, I think, here in Lexington, that it's not a lot of us out there. And historically in horse racing and the bourbon world, there are not too many people that look like us. So we are already, at the bottom. However, we have been embraced. I know you hear horror stories, but the support is just overwhelming. Some of the people, and a lot of them don't look like we do, and they are behind the brand 100%.
So that's good. it's good that you're getting that kind of support, and definitely Lexington has got that kind of reputation and everything. I'm sure they probably give you a hard time when you are there around Lexington and the whole Kentucky area, because they do not have the greatest respect for UNC or Duke basketball there because of their rivalry with the ACC schools. So I'm sure they give you a hard time when you tell them that you're a Dermite, since they are not fans of Duke or UNC.
So a quick story on that. We were I first moved here, and I was just like, I don't even really know why we came up here, but I think this project is why I came up here 100%. I think that's what it was. But so I'm watching the news, and this church had a problem with, his congregation spread it out too far, and people sitting in the back of the church. So he purchased cardboard cutouts of Coach K, Christian Laettner. I can't make this up, I promise. And he taped them to the back of the pews in the back of the church, and people literally crowded into these seats where they was literally sitting in each other's lap because they didn't want to sit in anywhere near Christian Laettner and Coach K. It's literally, they sell probably 1 million of these shirts every NCAA tournament. It says, "We still hate Laettner." That is the most popular shirt in Kentucky. It's unreal. And when I tell them that, I'm from Durham, it's like, okay, It is that serious. It is literally nothing I've never seen. This elderly lady punched me in the arm because I told her I was a Tar Heel fan, and she punched me and just walked off. I'm like, my wife was like, "Who is that?" I was like, I have no clue who she is. She found out I was from Durham and she punched me.
Just you from Durham and a Tar Heel fan, so she just went and punched you in the arm, and your wife is sitting there going like, "Who is this lady and why is she trying to punch you and everything?"
Yeah. So whatever you hear, I try to tell people, if you've never been to Tobacco Road and experienced the Duke-Carolina rivalry, it's nothing like it. But I will say, I've never met passionate fans like Kentucky. These guys, it's a cult. It's a cult, and I can't say it's always good, but these guys are diehard. So.
Yeah, there are definitely some diehard fans there and everything. I've actually, at one point, Louisville was, Big East and all of that, and I've actually went to Marquette, which is now a Big East school and everything. So I know a little bit about those rivalries and everything just from that Big East kind of flavor. Because when I was in school, it's when Doc Rivers was there, and we were totally independent. So we definitely did not have to worry about rivalries. But I'm still a diehard fan of my alma mater, so still root for them, whether it was Dwayne Wade or Jimmy Butler. So I try to follow the ones that are in the professional league to see how they're doing and everything. So
cold up there. It's like a whole different type of cold up there.
Oh no, it's totally different type of cold. Like I said, folks complain when we get cold at like 20 or 25 degrees. They got like 10 below, and I'm sitting there going like, nah, that's the reason I have not been back since I graduated, and my graduation was back in '84. So we're talking almost 40 years ago, and I ain't been back since. So I don't know if there are any plans to go back. I've got a dear friend that's out of Green Bay, and she's been talking about like, yeah, you need to come. Well, actually, now she's in Vegas, but she was like, yeah, you need to come visit my folks in Green Bay. I'm like, no, not Green Bay. No, we're not doing that.
I worked for Caterpillar for about 10 years, and I used to do a lot of projects up in Menominee, Michigan.
Oh yeah,
right on the border. Hey, we'll fly into Green Bay and drive, and I'm like, it can't get any colder than Green Bay, and then we'll go up north, and it's just like, this is unreal.
Yeah.
It's so cold. It's just, I can't take it. Hey, but I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed in Minot, North Dakota, so I understand what cold is. But
no, actually, one of the other guests I had on earlier today, he's a motivational speaker, and he speaks, even though he's got a speech impediment and everything, but he does some serious motivational speaking. Awesome. And he lives in South Dakota, and that's actually his home area. And I was like, nah, that's too cold too. So South Dakota, North Dakota, that's much too cold, because he was telling me that he's a diehard, as am I, Vikings fan. And he was like, nah, I had to root for them because they don't have any professional teams in the Dakotas. So they're going to wind up rooting for one of those other Midwestern teams, whether that's Green Bay or Chicago or the Vikings. But he was like, no, that cold weather is not the answer whatsoever. So they can keep it up there. I'll stay down in my southern lifestyle.
I hear you, man. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm glad that y'all have got this product going. And if folks are interested in getting involved, what kind of involvement do y'all need? I mean, are y'all at that point where y'all are looking for investors? Are y'all still looking for other folks to get involved? And in what kind of ways do you need the public? And this is the international broadcast media, so we've actually got a global audience. So definitely, what are some of the ways that folks might be able to engage your company and to help the company in whatever ways you need?
So as far as financial, we are bootstrapping this. We are doing out of pocket. We don't really want to take on investors. However, we do have opportunities for people to get involved with the business. We have a program now where we're selling the rights, the naming rights to our barrel. So most companies, they'll say this was barrel from bottle, at barrel one. And it's 300 bottles from barrel one. But what we're doing is giving people so like Mark, if you wanted a barrel, it'd be like the Mark Lee barrel. And basically your name would be involved on every bottled out of that barrel. And when it's in stores people, instead of a batch, it'd be the Mark Lee barrel. And if you know anything about bourbon, especially when you're doing single barrel and small batch, every barrel is different. So they say, the Mark Lee was better than the Jesse barrel. And so right. We're giving people that opportunity to do that. So we're still tweaking how we want to do it, but we will be reaching out to people. I don't want to make that public.
Right.
I want to take on serious people who want to be involved in that, so especially when we start releasing around about the Derby time. Imagine an Isaac Murphy bottle with a big Mark Lee's name on it. It's a commemorative piece. It's a part of history. So we want to give people the opportunity to be a part of that. But we are. This is out of pocket, man. So we believe in this pocket, in this project, and we're putting everything that we got into it, and we're gonna make Durham proud.
It sounds like it. Now, do you think this will be something that you'll stay involved with in terms of like making it a 100% just the Hillside brand and Hillside Bourbon brand and everything, or do you think that you will maintain the job that you've got in the pharmaceutical company? Or are you
No, I am. Old Hillside is going to be what I do until God calls me home. So so that's what the plan is. I've been in engineering for a while, and I kind of lost my passion. I still love what I do, but I am passionate about this project, and that's what I want to continue to do. So I have my son beside me the whole way there. He's a good steward, so I'll be okay with handing it off to him.
It sounds like it. And where do you see it being, like, say, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line when your son is your age and everything? So where do you see it at a 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line?
Well, I can say he won't be as cool as me at this age. That's just not going to happen. But what our plan is, we want to get our own a distillery. So we want to grab somebody from NCCU's chemistry department to be our master distiller. That's just what we want to do. So we want to build a distillery and just let this genius create some amazing products. So that's our goal. The plan is to be able to bottle our own product in the next 2 years, and in the next 5 years have a distillery.
Okay. And will that distillery be in Kentucky, or do you think it'll be in North Carolina, or that's still open for debate?
Oh man, we will have some type of store presence in North Carolina, but as you know, it's a controlled state. So we are limited. We are planning on opening a bourbon and cigar bar, and flagship our bourbon through that. But I think the distillery has to be in Kentucky. So that's the plan. But who knows what the future holds. I know a guy out of Statesville that make an amazing product, and you can't even if he didn't have a label on his product, okay, you wouldn't know it wasn't Kentucky bourbon. So that's always an option as well.
Okay. And are you hoping to use all local products, like if they're farmers and stuff that are either in Kentucky or other places? Are you hoping that all the products that make up the bourbon will be locally used products?
Yeah. Hey, we're always open to that, especially a bourbon has to be 51% corn.
Right.
So I know a lot of farmland down in Orange County and Henderson area, an area where we know we can get some corn from if it comes up to that, And now and bourbon has kind of evolved into the craft. Mm-hmm. Bourbon, they're trying a whole lot of different corn. I talked to a gentleman today who's using blue corn. It's blue corn bourbon, and they're using some kind of red tip corn now as well. So and we are open. I would love to partner with a farmer, and have a relationship with them. It's where we only get our corn from them. So yeah, we are open.
So open to having those kind of relationships with those local farmers. And you're right, there's a lot of folks that are doing local corns and some of those kinds of different corns, like you said, the blue corns and the sweet corns and a number of other kind of corns. And you're right that those craft bars and craft places have done quite well. I know that right here in Durham, we've got Ponysaurus, which is a very popular restaurant slash bar and everything, but it's here in the area. And there are a couple of others that are similar to that they are pushing their beer or pushing whatever their product is, but also have like a bar element and in some cases a restaurant element also. So sounds like y'all are open to those possibilities also.
Yeah.
So it definitely sounds like it's some good.
And the last time I was in Durham, I didn't even recognize it. So
wow. So when was the last time you were in Durham, and how long had the gap between the last visit to Durham and the time before that?
I visit Durham all the time, but like I rarely come there and hang out. So Hillside. Well, it was Central Homecoming about. So it was like my first time actually coming to Durham and hanging out and enjoying Durham. From the South Side. I'm from the South Side, and I drove through the South Side, and I'm like, holy crap, this is like unreal to see it. But I like the growth. I know a frown upon the direction that it's going, but we couldn't even walk through the.
Well, I remember when you could walk through South Side.
See it where you. Yeah, the old South Side, man. It was like Park South Side. That's where I grew. I probably lived on every street on the South Side.
Oh yeah, like you said, that used to be a real rough area to live in and everything. I know that probably less than a year ago, we lost one of the great pioneers from that area, but Ray Earhart, when he passed away, but he was doing a lot of things around South Side. But like I said, he passed away not that long ago when they did a whole virtual ceremony for him because of COVID and everything. So I know it's been within at least a year because of it being a virtual celebration. But he was doing a lot of activism work in the area you're talking about, that old South Side. And like I said, my buddy Ray, who I was talking about, he's a Hillside graduate, and I think he might have graduated.
And my parents actually still live on the.
Okay, so they still live over there, because I was going to say my buddy Ray Pascal, he goes to Mount Vernon, and of course Mount Vernon is nothing but old South Side in that sense.
Yeah, I went to Gethsemane.
Okay, I remember Gethsemane. What are some of the things that you have?
I went to Gethsemane with Reverend Brown.
Okay, with Reverend Brown. What are some of the things that you have missed about Durham now that you've been in Kentucky? Like you said, you came here and you've seen that it's changed, but I'm sure that you are missing some things about Durham, whether that was some old historical haunts or some other things. Yeah. But what are some of the things that you have missed about Durham that you missed from being there in Lexington?
So keep in mind, I left. I graduated high school in '93, and I left Durham in '96. I joined the military in '96. So I went to Central for 2.5 years, a year. So actually a long time ago. And I was in Germany for 4 years and get back to Durham to a long time ago. But things I miss, man, I just miss the camaraderie some of my friends, and just us going to like different places and hanging out. Just the nostalgia of us 90s kids, just that's what I missed the most, because I left in the 90s, and when I came back, that was the only thing I remembered. So but it's gone now, but I still miss some of the people who we came up with, But I do have a few of them on this project with us.
Well, that's good that you got your friends helping you out on the project and everything. There's also a very active, at least it was, I don't know how active it is now, horse riding club here in Durham and all of that. So are you going to try to do any kind of team up projects with those folks that are part of the things, the Bull City Riders? I always get the motorcycle and the horse racing groups mixed up in terms of their name, but I think that the Riders is the one that's the horse racers, of the horse riders. But are you planning to get involved with any of your bourbon and those organizations?
So we have reached out to Jockeys Association, and they have a division of African American jockeys. So we did reach out to them. So something may be in the works there, but as far as Durham, I have not. I wasn't even aware that they even had an association in Durham.
Yeah, there's not so much like a regular association of jockeys, but it's like folks that have horses, and they've been around for a number of years. But yeah, there's like the horse riders, folks that have horses in their properties or in their homes and things, and it's been around for a number of years. And as far as I know, it's still existing. And I know that Greg Lee, no relation to me, and a couple of other folks are part of that team of riders. They usually participate in like the Juneteenth things and the Christmas parades when we had that, and a number of those other kind of outside festivals. So they do still, as far as I know, exist. So I'll have to get you their contact information, because I'm sure that they might be interested just in helping spread the word and all of that. And I think they still do the trail ride, because I know they do like trail rides in some of our more rural towns like Creedmoor and Henderson and some of the places that are nearby, but they do have trail rides.
Awesome. I would love to be involved with that. That sounds like something that's up our alley.
Yep, I'll definitely have to put you in touch with them and see if they can figure out a way to connect with the bourbon and all of that. I know that when and sometimes people get this confused, but I would like you to maybe share with our audience the difference between the bourbon kind of creation and some of the other creations, whether that's craft beers, and a lot of times people will get bourbon confused with the corn liquors and all of that. But we know that that's a totally different kind of creation, because I know that I had a great uncle who's since passed, but he used to make different kind of corn liquor, whether it was peach or whether it was apple or a number of other kinds. But that's not the same as bourbon. But just share with our global audience a little bit about the difference in the process.
Yeah. So bourbon is actually almost, I think, the easiest way to do it. It's a whiskey certification, basically. So every bourbon is whiskey, but not every whiskey is bourbon. So in order for a whiskey to be called bourbon, it has to be at least 51% corn, and it has to be aged in a brand new oak, toasted oak charred barrel. So that is some of the actual certifications. Our product is going to be a 4-year straight bourbon whiskey, and it means it's aged at least 4 years to get the straight title. So the difference between all bourbons start off as a white dog is what they call it, or moonshine, but the same type. But bourbon has a thing called a mash bill, and a mash bill is the percentage of the grain. So our product is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% barley. So that's usually typical in bourbon, but bourbon has to be at least 51% corn, and the rest of the grains you can kind of change up if you want. But that's the only way you can call it bourbon. So moonshine, if you know the history in moonshine, during the Prohibition, the guys would they distill at night under the moon. That's why they would call it moonshine. So moonshine isn't aged. It isn't aged. It comes straight out of the still into bottles, and then it's drank. Bourbon has to be aged. So I chose to go with a 4-year, because it's kind of our sweet spot. if you get the old stuff, like the very expensive stuff, it's too oaky. For me, I really like that. And so 4 to 7 years are the sweet spots. So it costs a little extra to do it that way, but it's a better quality product.
Gotcha. And what do you say to the folks that are like, because you always got your doubters and your pessimists that'll be sitting there going like, now why are you going to go up against the big boys and all of those that are already out there and have got space for commercials and have got space for like being on the networks and a number of other things. And, we always have our doubters in everything we do and everything. So what is your message to those doubters?
So it's all in the presentation, man. It's what they choose to support. You can find a product that tastes like anything, but is it any soul in it? Is it any, is it representing what it's supposed to represent? And if you look through the history of bourbon, especially, there was a lot of people who just bought the names of famous people and just put their own juice in somebody else's bottle, and it's just not their story. Our story is authentic, and we are based on brotherhood, and we're just a bunch of brothers who fought in elementary and high school, and came together through horse racing and bourbon, and our logo. That's what it's all about, man. With Durham, horse racing and bourbon. That's what we, our friendship. It's based on that, and hey, we want to commemorate our friendship. Not the larger brands aren't doing that, Yeah. And I touch every bottle. Hey, we go and we see every bottle being packed. We see the big companies can't do that. I can't. The big boys will never have a Marc Lee, but a bottle hit stores, and that gives us that flexibility to take on projects such as that as well.
Yeah. So definitely a great attitude to have with the going up against the big boys and all of that. Definitely couldn't agree with you more on that. And that's just the way to handle that, because a lot of times folks are too much doing that self-sabotage. We were actually talking about that on one of our earlier shows, where they say they are already being defeated before the battle has even been started. But it sounds to me like y'all have a very positive attitude and are going to go into the war before even like declaring yourselves to be the losers and everything. Because I think too often folks in entrepreneurship are already declaring themselves the losers, and they haven't even started the fight.
And 100%, man. And our team, I was going to try to do this by myself, and I just couldn't, man, because I would get discouraged, and I got 3 other guys that are just pumping me up, and it's time. If they get discouraged, I'm like, man, hey, we got this, and just watching the momentum and how we support each other, hey, we pray for each other every night, and it's just, that's what Hillside does. That's the nostalgia of Hillside, man. We are going to have each other's back. We would go to Hillside and fight every day. Hillside is Hillside, but when we went to Durham High, Jordan, you best believe we were all together.
Right.
So, and that's what we trying to bring to our brand, that camaraderie, that friendship, and that, while paying history and homage to the guys that did it before us.
Yep. What was the reaction when you told your parents or told the folks in your life, including your wife, that you were going to go into this whole bourbon field? I'm sure that they probably had interesting reactions. I just wonder.
Hey, my dad, he's and he was in like a couple years, and Kentucky was different, and he was telling horror stories, and he was like, man, just be careful. But for the most part, man, like, really the only pushback we got for the people who think that Black people don't drink bourbon, it's like, oh man, you should do a vodka or a cognac. I'm like, yeah, I can, but I don't drink it. It's something about bourbon, that process and how science works that fascinates me. It just has never carried over in the cognacs and the vodkas. But so our goal is to bring on new people, to try new stuff.
Yes. Yeah, it's all about trying new stuff. That's always the best thing to do, is try those new things, and everything along those lines. Couldn't agree with you more. But I know that even when I've gone to events, whether that's been some of the homecoming events or the lawyers' balls or some of the other things that might be taking place at our local hotels or our local restaurants and everything, it seems to me that I saw enough folks drinking the bourbons, just like I saw folks drinking the cognacs and the vodka. So I would agree with you that there are plenty of folks that like their wine and their beer, but there are folks that like the various kinds of whiskey that exist out there. Like I said, whether that's the vodkas or whether that's the whiskeys or definitely the bourbons, because I've seen a number of my friends that will grab their favorite bourbon, and hopefully one of their new favorite bourbons will be one that Jesse and the Old Hillside folks have got going out as well.
Absolutely. That's what we're actually trying to do. It's just something about bourbon, man. It's just how the science make it all happen. Like, I can store a barrel on the top floor and it tastes completely different from the one that was stored on the bottom floor.
Well,
it's just the science behind it that's fascinating. Ain't no offense to anything else. If you drink vodka, drink it. If you enjoy it, drink it. I don't care what it is, but it's the science behind it, how you can manipulate taste by moving a barrel. It's just fascinating to me. And, and that's why we're in it, because we want to learn everything we can about it and come on the Mark Lee show and talk about it.
Well, I appreciate you definitely doing that and get ready to wrap everything up. So I appreciate it, because I've actually got to get ready to do my audio podcast, since I do about 3 of these on Monday afternoons and everything. But one of the things I have all my guests do is I love them to give words of encouragement, words of positivity that they would like to share with our global audience. And we do have folks that listen from Nigeria, from South Africa, from Australia, England, and a number of other places, including the various states around the United States, and of course Canada and Latin America and all of that. So any words of encouragement or positivity that you would like to share as we wrap up things, I'd love to hear those from you at this point.
Yeah, it's just don't quit, man. We all in fields that we're not the experts in. There's better people doing it. Learn from those people. And that's what I tell everybody. If you know it and I don't care if you sweeping the floor or you sitting in the office, I want to know it. And don't ever not be humble yourself. If somebody know it, learn from them. I don't care what they are. And I think some people don't come to certain people because of their positions. Learn from whoever you can. Take any nuggets you can and apply it to what you're doing. I learned so much from people who had no idea it was even teaching me anything. Right. And so just listen and learn from people. So that's my message to your team or your crowd.
All right. I appreciate it. And definitely, I'm sure they will enjoy that message as well. It's interesting you said that. I had Chucky Curry on, who's a martial arts expert, on my other show and everything. And he was actually saying something very similar, because he was talking about the fact that he's had the pleasure of meeting and talking to folks that have passed on, like Prince and Michael Jackson, but also folks that are still around, like Halle Berry and awesome. Bill Duke and a number of other folks. But one of the things he was saying was what you just said, was that too often other folks might not go and talk to them or even try to pitch an idea to them, because they were afraid, one, that they would say no, and two, that they would be very dismissive. But his whole attitude was he was going to go and approach them and let them give him that negative vibe. He wasn't going to go in there with that negative vibe. But I do think that too often we go in there with that negative vibe and self-sabotage ourselves before we've even had a chance to be defeated and all of that. I'm thinking that I don't see any reason why in next year's Super Bowl we can't have a commercial featuring Old Hillside as one of those commercial spots after the money's coming in.
I received that. And like my pastor used to say he was like, you humble yourself and ask. I'm gonna get tired. He gonna get tired of telling me no before I get tired of asking. So eventually he's gonna tell me yes. So yeah, I appreciate the time, Mark. Mark, thank you. I know it was off the script; it wasn't planned, but awesome job. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. Definitely, you shared some great information, and I definitely appreciate you letting folks know what you've got going on. If folks do want to check out the website, give them that website one more time. Then I'm gonna put up one of these commercials of our other show.
And the website is under construction, but you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Old Hillside Bourbon Company. And just follow it, and we post daily to get the information about the website. So the website will be up shortly.
Sounds good. So I'll definitely be hoping that more and more folks will learn about the amazing products that y'all have going on, and we'll definitely be continuing to invite you on other times as well. So hopefully, as you progress, we'll be able to have you on even more times and all of that. Like I did mention, Shoe Crazy actually has a whole show around the wine industry. So I'll have to talk to my folks, and maybe we'll have to do a show around the bourbon industry at some point as well. So I'll talk to my folks and see if that can happen.
I support that 100%. So thank you. I appreciate your time, sir.
All right. Sounds good. So right now we're going to check out one of the other shows we've got on the air as well, that being one about investing, because investing is also very important. So let's see what Sasha's saying about his show.